On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, Ordeal Call 3 done early? Gone wrong? Extreme?
We gotta
Now,
do
if
something
there's
about that
anybody
voice.
left after I said all that.
Yeah,
Also-
I know, I'm just like, I hate that.
I'm sorry to have cursed you with this knowledge. Lucky. Also, NA is gearing up for our usual after-event business for this month, so we'll talk about the Road to 7 and where that's going, along with many more other funny, fun things. I am one of your hosts, coming to you live from the Mare Cogitum, Omega. With me, as always, coming to you from the Mare Anguis, Lucky.
Are those moon craters?
Yes, those are Mare on the moon.
Okay.
Mare Cogitum is the sea that is known, and the Mare Anguis is the sea of serpents.
Oh.
There's a lot of fun names for craters and what they call mare, which is depressions, because they're not actually seas on the moons. And then there's some that are boring, like I don't know what William Henry Smythe did, but was he a cool enough guy we have to talk about the Mare Smythe with 2 eyes? There's a Mare Moscow for some reason, it's Moscoviense, but it's the Sea of Moscow. I guess they saw it in Moscow. Anyway.
I guess. But, with that, I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka Over the Moon. And while we here at Studio Mega like to bring you the latest in FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for both the JP and EN versions of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should take a walk down memory lane.
Yes, we, that as usual, that spoiler warning may be a little, more important than usual if you're going completely blind about future JP stuff. Like I said, while I did phrase it in possibly the cringiest way possible, Ordeal Call 3, Part 3 has released early by about 5 days, so we've got some news on that front. Not a complete detail yet, we'll probably follow up on that later, but yeah, so if you want to protect your virgin eyes, be sure to tune out right after I thank our patrons who make this possible, like Adam DeHart, Blackest OG, Call Me Zed, Carlos Dragon, and JW9000, Just the Fae, Kaiser, Chris Starlight, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Trevor, some guy named Bob, and Varen the Crow. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. Get access to episodes early and other goodies. No, because I think that the original release was supposed to be, like, for the Impact and stuff was the 25th. There was some stuff that was also supposed to happen the 29th, but like I said, it's live now, so it's been pushed up their timetable significantly. But yes, that's our Patreon. Thank you. I don't need that anymore. I will close that tab, and we're gonna keep on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move my microphone slightly closer to me so that I can speak better. I will say, mostly for the patrons from the Before Time folks, my sinus headache is clearing up. The drugs are working. I'm feeling more awake now, more alive. I'm decongestified. Anyway, that means that I can project a little bit better. So, first we're going to check in with everybody's favorite Kohai, Mesh.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because it is time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, regular segment for pro tips.
Yeah.
This one is very simple. I'm here to remind you that as the Road to 7 continues, you will get opportunities to catch up on story. So you should use them if you are behind on story. You're going to, be looking at reduced cost for clearance and lowered AP. And in fact, I'm pretty sure between one of the two events, whether it's main story clear or Road to 7 upcoming, there's going to be some like 0.5 AP story in there, or quarter AP probably story somewhere. But I'm not actually sure where, because I just realized I didn't write it down earlier. But there'll be low AP on story, reduced AP on free quests and all that stuff. So like, if you're not caught up, you got some catch up time, and it's a good time to catch up, because the game wants you to catch up.
So catch up.
If you're not caught up, if you're not cats up, I don't know, just enjoy your free time, man. Go outside, touch grass, look at the moon, find that telescope you've got in the 7th grade. Some people are probably going to feel very targeted right now on that. But yeah, no, that's our pro tip, is just, hey, they're going to block out like a week, which is just going to be, reminiscence and story catch up. So catch up on story if you aren't, and if you are, I don't know, enjoy Super Recollection quests. That brings an end to our pro tipification. That means we can move into Records on the Throne, a regular achievement topic. I have no idea of when or where I may have said these things, so I'm going to plainly state it straight up. For surezies, Io, Riku, Yaminami Smiles, all protected.
Yay.
They're all max ascension, max level. My Io is NP5. All that stuff taken care of. Still got a few more 100,000 T points to take care of, but that's just the nature of the grind. Also, I completely forgot to, There are a couple of days I've, just remembered to log in and have not grinded at all, and that's my bad.
Oh, better than me. I actually broke my streak yet again. So, yeah.
You've been warframing too hard.
I have.
No, I understand. We'll talk about it in the What's Up Zone, but I'm also juggling, 3 or 4 video games off and on now. But yeah, that's my records.
For me, it is not that much different. I also got my Riku and Yamanami Smile Protected, along with Saber Diamond. I had to actually double check this, but I did do my Io when she was temp, 2 weeks ago. But this is also important to me because of hero proofs, as always. The only servant that I have unleveled right now is Roland. That is my last unleveled servant, and that is, just, kind of yeah. Y'all remember when Lucky had several MP5 SSRs level 1, and he was just yeah.
Some people may remember that story arc, yes, the continuity, the deep lore. But no longer.
Indeed.
I have to double check. I think, obviously, I don't have nearly as many servants, so it hasn't been as persistent a problem, but I think all of the servants I actually do own are also in a similar state of being caught up. I think I talked about this, earlier this year. I was yeah, they're giving me so many free embers, I've had to start leveling Columbus. I literally have no one else left in the tank. But, alrighty. Good job, everyone. Pachi all around.
Pachi.
No evils, we're just cruising. We got 3 days left in the event.
Yeah.
And so we go on to, did you finish your master missions? Once again, this week, probably. They want you to defeat 3 each of servants which have some form of evil, neutral, or chaotic alignments. I think neutral is the front half, because they use balanced for the second half in English. If only because, verbiage-wise, it doesn't translate as well to English when you got to do it the other way around. Defeat 15 enemies with the human secret attribute, and then acquire 2 skill gems or statues of any kind via drops, and then 4 skill gems or statues of any sort of drops. This is big do-the-event type stuff here, but also could be literally anything. The biggest one there is defeat 15 enemies with the man attribute. I'm pretty sure you can do that in a decent number of free quests in, Rome, Septum. Spoilers, Romans have the human attribute. They're from human history. That's how that works.
Roma.
That's a good question. Was that an interlude that explained what the hidden attributes mean? Or was that in main story somewhere?
It is explained at one point, but unfortunately I believe it has been so long ago that I don't actually know.
Yeah, it was during part 1. They did actually remember to explain it, but I just realized to myself, actually people may not know how hidden attribute is supposed to work, because it is technically supposed to be hidden. Obviously, that's a thing that I think the UI and JP, earlier this year, finally, did away with actually trying to hide. They just straight up start displaying it. And it's been in every servant's profile. Emmy is interlude, that's right, yeah. Because he's talking about heroic spirit stuff. I don't actually know why we don't have a full glossary. Probably because it would be another bunch of megabytes the game doesn't need. Because you can review the entire story of the game at any time. But yeah, keep that in mind, chat. Let's move on to...
Honestly, fuck... FGO probably does need an in-game codex or something.
Oh, it probably wouldn't be bad. Most Fate properties do that. It's a little underplayed because it is kind of gamey, but technically servant stats are diegetic. In the original Fate Stay Night, it describes that the ritual for summoning a servant is supposed to grant all the masters a sensory magecraft so they can understand what they're up against. And just Shiro is such a giant nerd that he thinks of characters already like they're in a gacha game, ranked, E through A with a little bit of EX on top. That's technically this whole stat system is just how his brain interprets it, but they, like a lot of things in Fate, they liked how it worked in Fate Stay Night, so they just stuck with it because most of us can wrap our head around it. I don't think they've ever actually described... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, there's a reason why game lit and lit RPG genres have become very popular in recent times. People like it when you can abstract stats into simple rankings.
Yeah, it is sometimes like that. Also, no, patron chat asked, did we not get a week where the weekly quest for X amount of shop currency? No, I don't think we did, actually. I don't remember that, because I gotta write them every week. That is a little interesting. Maybe it's because we've got a lot of variable stuff. All of them were, during the event, pretty easy to tag. But yeah, no, what I was gonna say earlier was that, I don't actually think a Fate story has necessarily described how other masters perceive servant stats. It's just something that isn't discussed much outside of Fate Stay Night. And it may, they can handwave that as being part of the Fuyuki style ritual, but like I don't actually know if Zero actually describes like how Kiritsugu perceives that sort of thing or whatever. But yeah. Anyway, in the Skylogram Zone, big news number 1 from JP: Archetype Inception Part 3 pre-release and release. So the pre-release campaign started the 18th, and this release was pushed up like 5 days. Like I think when they started the pre-release, they said it was going to come the 25th, which may already have been moved up because this was asked in our Patreon chat earlier. There was some stuff intended for the 29th, but that may have been an end date. But yeah, it got pushed up definitely like 5 days because the actual drop was nowish, the 20th of September. So, starting on the 18th, the pre-release campaign came with a series of login bonuses for like gold apples, EXPs, etc. It also came with a King Protea rank up. Her huge skill got buffed again. This is the second time that skill's been buffed. So it is now a 20 to 30% battery instantly, a 50 to 100% buff removal resist for 1 time, 10 turns, and also the growth buff stacks now come with a permanent 8% NP damage resistance every time they proc. And remember, she procs a stack of growth. The huge growth effect applies at the end of every turn for like 10 turns. So, in addition to getting a permanent max HP increase of like 4k for every, level it goes up by, you're now getting a indefinite 8% NP damage resist permanently applied as well, which is pretty bonkers. The Tankily. Actually, that's a good question. Were there any video games that came out that Nasu needed to play, so we like got to speedrun this? Was he really interested in Astrobot? But yeah, no. They did something that, like I said, FGO doesn't usually do, and this got pushed up by several days. Usually things get delayed, so no. Very interesting to see this come out so timely. I imagine this means this is probably the sort of schedule we're going to see from the jump for English, for EN later in a couple of years. It'll probably be at this scale to start with. But yes, King Protea buff is pretty cool. Their limited time master missions till the 1st of October. Clear MSQ for St. Quartz, Teapots, and Apples as well. The banners to go with the actual release drop. That's right, everybody. It's all those last couple Moon Cancers and more. Finally, the Archetype Earth banner came out. And we also got a Kiara and Roland banner raid up, funnily enough.
Oh, excuse me.
Also, Kiara got an animation update. Neat. Kind of out of nowhere.
Yes.
But also, so far, slightly disappointing. Lip got a costume, but it's just new dialogue. Like, it's for her first ascension and doesn't really do much to change her costume. Hopefully we do get something more later, because it sounds like in October there may be some follow-up. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And obviously there was the story sprite we talked about, which showed her in a swimsuit during summer. And we do also know that the summer, like, prologue for the Ordeal Call will be added to main interlude later. So, like, it will, keep its progress and stuff there. So I'm hoping we get a turnaround of that, but, like, that is very disappointing to just get new servant dialogue linked to a costume that's not a costume, because they usually just give servants new My Room lines. I don't know. It's odd. There may be more context in the story, but it does feel kind of like a wasted opportunity. But we do get our alleged welfare unlock. So there is a new Moon Cancer character that is a welfare. There's 2 of them, actually. You have to pick one of them. You get 1 copy of that one, and if I'm understanding the updates correctly, you will also, when you pick, you will unlock them in the FP Gacha immediately for more copies, presumably at the same rate of stuff like Habitrat or Saber Lily. The other version, mechanically they're the same. It's very similar to Mecha Liz. Mechanically they're identical, but they've got, different looks and lines. That one will be made available by an update sometime in October, which is also going to have an FP Gacha rate up for both of them, both versions. So for now, while I do think this is a pretty big zinger, I'm thinking we maybe should wait to detail their abilities and stuff and discuss it until that update when they're going to be generally available.
And on rate up,
Yeah, and on rate up, because this actually, I think, was asked in the comments, or maybe it was a mailbag that missed the deadline, like a week or 2 ago, asking like how we do our spoiler calls for stuff. The general rule on the show and on our Discord server is, once something has a rate up banner, it can no longer be considered a spoiler that character exists, because FGO is throwing out this big public news banner. Hey, look at this character. So this means that we have occasionally been able to hold off on, secret late game welfares and other kinds of like oddball event servants that are unlocked. Discussing Habitrat, for instance, Happy Cat. So this person doesn't have a rate up banner yet, and is just kind of a, secret clear the story drop right now. And the story is being cleared early, so I think it might be a little better for us to hold back on that one for a little bit. Because I do think there's some very interesting discussion there, but it is a little close to our normal spoiler cleave rules.
I would also like time for people to like get out maybe like some translations and stuff so we can actually see more about
yeah, I actually when I wrote these notes, the Grand Order Wikia was not showing them in the list of newest servants yet. They since have actually, but it was definitely like this is happening like so fast that even like news sites can't keep up. It's neat. So we'll hopefully get some profile stuff later. And like I said, we can wait a little bit. It'll still be big news no matter what, as long as you guys are keeping your heads down. But also clearing Ordeal Call 3 unlocks the class score for Extra 1. That is the Ruler, Avenger, Mooncancer, Shielder block. You can get an unlock there so you can give additional buffs to Mooncancers. Duh. Pretty straightforward stuff. But yes, very interesting. And like I said, that seems to me, especially because some of these like tie-in events makes it sound like we're going to have a follow-up sometime in October. Some people have been speculating like, oh, we haven't done a proper Guda Guda this year. When will we get it? When could it be? Could be literally any time. But I think, I'm just going to guess that we may get something in the vague zone of a Halloween this year in October. Just getting a hunch. I think it might be thematically appropriate, considering who our usual star for Halloween is. But that is the JP news for now. Moving over to the EN version. We've got Road to 7, Lost Belt 5, Part 1. Lost Belt 5.1. That is going to begin when our Guda Guda ends on the 24th of September, and is going to go until the 30th of September. So, the usual break week, giving you some gap time. Your banners, in order, you're going to be looking at Super Orion, Estrella, Odysseus Chiron, Achilles Chiome, Orion Estrella, no I did not stutter, in that order. Hector and Mandricardo, my friend, will be on raid up on all of those. When you log in, you're going to play a special movie. Those of you who like to play FGO at your work, be cautious when this update goes live. These big videos are sometimes big, sometimes flashy, not always good on your work Wi-Fi. You're going to get your Recollection and Super Recollection quests for your usual, teapots, summon ticks, that sort of thing. There's also going to be some limited time master missions. You're looking at quarter AP on LB 5.1 free quests, first clear. You're looking at half AP on interludes and rank ups, and double suck chance, double EXP, double FP for all the LB 5.1 gang. We're getting new rank ups for Achilles and Chiome. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but I will start tracking them down, because I'm sure the people want to know. But we're also going to get new interludes for Super Orion and Jason as well. So you're getting a double dipper. You're getting rank ups and interludes. Sorry, that brief pause there was me trying to correctly spell road. Okay, so Jason gets an NP interlude to just increase his damage, and also for him to generate 20 critical stars every turn for 3 turns. That's pretty big. Achilles is going to get his NP upgraded, which will give itself more damage, increase his own critical damage for 3 turns, and also give all enemies 3 turns of confusion. Interesting. So that's a 30% chance to proc 1 turn of skill seal for 3 turns. And Chiome's witchcraft skill, her curse ability, is going to get buffed. It's going to give her increased damage versus enemies with the demonic trait and enemies with the curse debuff. Neat. I think Chiome already involved some curse dot strats, so now you can amplify that. That'll be nice for me. I'm not exactly sure what heckin' raid up gave it to me, but I'm pretty sure my Chiome is like NP 9 billion. Not actually true, but I got a shitload of Chiome NPs from somewhere. But yeah, so you got those. Odysseus' costumes are going to be in dressmaking, so you can put his helmet on anywhere. Also, this is the update. I think we have discussed previously when it was coming, but this is the update where they make it so you no longer need to have cleared 5.5 to do LB6. This is when it switches to just needing 5.2 cleared as part of this process. We also have, like I mentioned before, a main story clear support campaign going on through the 7th of October, so an extra week of that. You can log in to get access to leyline stones and the like, and those limited time master missions I mentioned earlier will also include some leyline stones. During this time period, you're going to get caster dailies open all the time, and like I said, I'm somewhere in here, I'm not exactly sure where, but I feel like there's got to be like a 0 or quarter AP. Or we're already under quarter AP, and I just haven't noticed because I'm caught up on story. But yeah, no. There'll be a special stream and stuff, special video to remark all this. Not necessarily a literal live stream, but some sort of premiere video or something. And that'll open our way for our next Uvunt. Yes, Heian-kyo going firmly into the main interlude zone. Now that I think Heian-kyo is as bad to stomach as, not making EORs required for clearance. That one I think they already knew about doing some skippage. But also this was actually recommended for us to bring up by somebody in the patron chat earlier. But also, in Fate adjacent news, got a couple of follow-ups, actually. Let me see. People posted about it in a few places in our Discord, but I'm not actually sure where. But we did get Strange Fake news. Strange Fake, the anime, is moving forward. I think they said it's going to be early 2025? And there will be a... Yes, here we go. I found the link. Crunchyroll's going to stream it. We got, more cast announcements. Okay, no. World premiere of our next bit in November. Okay. So it's going to be November, and also I think they said that there will be more of it. Is going to be the New Year's special as well this year. So it sounds like they're going to, dole out the first couple of episodes, at special events for a few months, and then hopefully we'll get proper, normal weekly releases. But yeah, so the series is actually moving forward. There will be a world premiere in November of the first episode of the proper series, not the technically the special we got already was a prologue. And then FGO has also announced that it's going to be their, Fate special, anime special of the new year at New Year's as well. So gonna get a couple of bits and then move on. And the other bit of franchise news is that I can't remember exactly where what was up, but the Prisma Ilia manga has finally gotten its license sorted out and is being officially released in English. I can't remember if that's for the first time or if it was previously got and then just wasn't being handled. I know that the anime for Aprilia has been through a lot of licensing hoops, but we're getting a proper up-to-date license and release. Okay, so yeah, so the first time. So the manga has not been officially licensed over here yet. This is good news because more official licensing and translation is good. Sadly, we're not getting those light novels out. But I heard an interesting kind of conversation about that earlier in the week, talking about actually apparently I don't know how closely they work, but Nasu has made comments before about Steam releases and bringing over translations and licensing of Type Moon's works. And has talked before about, one of the reasons why they're so hesitant to do Steam releases, besides the fact that Type Moon themselves are still a relatively small company, and I don't actually know how much money off of this they make. I assume they get a decent kickback because they do, a lot of the work in writing FGO, but, there are multiple writers and staff members they got to go through, so like I said, I don't know if it's making, the company as a whole a lot of money, but there's a concern about, piracy because they are smaller, and also, Nasu has made some comments about kind of wanting to make sure things are translated, with proper diligence, and that it kind of made it sound like they've been kind of burned by some translations in the past where things kind of are out of their sphere of influence, Mm-hmm. Which, and Nasu I think is an old school enough nerd to know some of the stories about we've talked before about how pre-internet localization worked, have you ever wondered why there are weird translation errors and script errors in Final Fantasy VII? It's because it was done by, two dudes entering cells in a spreadsheet. Metal Gear Solid had a slightly more cohesive translation, if only because they had to record voice acting for that, but that was still done by, a handful of guys who were how the shit do we translate this? I guess we'll just try and make it sound like an 80s action movie filtered through a Tom Clancy thesaurus. And it worked.
It did work.
It was very memorable, but it was kind of I know that's something Kojima's commented about, is that he feels a little weird still because it was it's very iconic, but also it was kind of completely outside his creative direction. I'm telling this very lengthy story, not to kill time for the episode, but because, like I said, I've read some people cross-referencing a few interviews in that it seems like Nasu feels kind of similar, that he doesn't necessarily like the translations and licensing to be too far from him. And apparently, like I said, I don't know how closely they work directly, but apparently Nasu seems to like Albert and his team at Aniplex of America, which is why, like, Albert's crew of translators have been involved in multiple projects, not just FGO. Like, they were part of the licensing and translation for Samurai Remnant and stuff.
Yeah, well,
good.
Well, it just makes me think about how Albert actually got as a job originally, where he basically approached Aniplex talking about how there was lines in Unlimited Blade Works that were mistranslated and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think it shows that he's got the accuracy and the passion, but apparently, like I said, his group, because it's not just him that does these things. He is, localization director, but he's got a whole team working under him. But apparently, that team does work fairly closely, I think, with the Sangul and Type Moon at times, and that is a relationship that Nasu likes. And it does make me wonder if maybe this is why we don't get more transliterations, because like light novels are very popular over here. They're a very big market. Very successful currently, but they're also involve lots of, well, I say lots, comparatively lots of text, in that they are primarily text-driven media. So it does make me wonder if, like, because Type Moon would and their publishing partners would prefer to work with, like, Aniplex of America and so on, that they don't want to overwork the crew by running too much throughput, and that is why we get lower releases, even though there would be a huge demand. Because, the authors want to keep more creative control on the end product. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. But I hope we can in that case, give that localization team more money to bring more product, because I genuinely there is a shitload of Fate media that is still untouched, and as much as it is crazy that we kind of have not the old Trinity, but the new Trinity of, the original Nasu-verse VNs, even if Tsukihime is only the first half of the remake, because Nasu likes giving himself more work. But, the fact that Witch of the Holy Night and Fate Stay Night are, both out there, and we're getting a Hollow Ataraxia, port and translation, that's pretty impressive. But I know that they got so much more media in the can, so I'd love to see it. But I believe, unless I have missed anything else, which I'm sure the patron chat will double check us for me, I believe that brings our skeleton grams to a close.
I believe so as well. So, with that, let us move on to the next section, which is our Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. This week we have five lovely submissions, and we'll get through them all. So everyone sit down, relax, and enjoy what people have to say. Our first one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, "Dear Lucky Omega, no question this week. Just sending you good vibes, wah 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 wah, and wishing you well. Keep up the great work. Same to you, buddy. Thank you very much. Hope things are going well with you." But without further ado, on to the next. This next one comes from Procrastinator is procrastinating on sleep. Don't do that. That's bad.
Literally shortens your life. Sleep.
I would know. I actually slept like dog shit last night. Literally, was rolling around 3 a.m. Why can't I sleep? Woke up at 6, tried to go back to sleep. Woke up at 9, tried to go back to sleep. Then woke up at 3, and I'm like, all right.
Clearly something is not working.
Something is not working.
Yeah, I've had some days like that this week. Just tossing, turning, and well, do I get up now? Sure.
Yeah, probably should have got up at the 9 one and just said fuck it and just overdosed on caffeine, but here we are. But this person says, "Can't wait to see how Nasu manages to cram pretty much every Fate OC but the kitchen sink and OC3 in 2 years. Anyway, sending good vibes. Wah 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 wah." Yes, I am personally very excited to get here, and a little trepidatious. I have heard some people saying that this actually isn't their favorite story, and I'm just looking at all the characters, I'm like, but why? And I don't actually want them to answer that, because I don't want to know. Not yet, anyway.
I will continue to assume, just because he hasn't yet steered me wrong, that it will be another Nasu banger. But, you never know. Some stuff isn't to my taste.
So, with that, we move on. This next one comes from the Tyrant King, now expecting the October event to contain some form of Sakura Face servant now. I believe this as well.
I think that's a decent guess.
Yes. Question: Hey guys, now with 2 story drops this year, do you think it's possible to get another possibly this year? Also, do you think we'll get the prototype collab before the Strange Fate collab? Since the OC trailer mentioned Tokyo 1999 and Strange Fate prototype both have Sayaka, as a main character. Anyway, that's it for me. Sending good vibes your way. Wah 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening. Honestly, personally, I'm betting on a Strange Fate collab next year. That seems pretty strong.
That would be the most relevant to what's going on, because, like, by the time Golden Week, the first core would be, like, either close to wrapping or wrapping, depending on how far in advance we're getting these world premieres, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't actually know if they've said exactly how many episodes they're doing of the series, but at least one production core should be close to done, if not done. So, yeah. I would also say that, like, just because the Ordeal Call trailer mentioned something doesn't necessarily mean that that's, like, literally like that. Some of those are, like... Sorry, it's not the normal word I would use, but my first instinct was to say a ruse. They are often red herrings. They may be false leads. Like, remember how everybody thought that what became Shimosa was gonna be, like, about Dante's Inferno, because, like, Inferno and Paradiso and stuff like that were in the terms, and then it just turns out that Doman is a huge troll and a dickhead and just gave them all names to be more annoying. So, like, there's no guarantee, but that said, I would guesstimate that probably, if it is gonna come up, may mean that you may see some of your prototype tie-in in the last Ordeal Call. To answer the original question about will we get another story drop this year, no, I don't think so, actually, because I believe they said that what will now be Ordeal Call 4 will be next year. So, I'm gonna guess that'll be the like, early 2025 story drop. And so, no, we probably are not going to get more story this year. They snuck out 2. They managed to get one of them done ahead of schedule, so there's that. But yeah. But no, I agree with you, Lucky, that for Golden Week collab, probably Strange Fake. I think that would make the most sense.
So, we move swiftly on. Our next one comes from Thighs Are My Religion. Preach, brother. But they say, howdy, Lucky Omega. Hope you're all having a good week. My question this week is, what Shinsengumi member is your favorite? I have to say my favorite? Honestly, probably has to be Saito, honestly. He's kind of like a straight man, and I don't know, there's something about the aesthetic with a man in a suit with a sword that's just like, yes, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, Saito's very good. My first instinct was it's either between him or just also to be incredibly vanilla, just OG Okita. But no, like, Saito's very strong aesthetics with his, you know, coat effects and or just his suit and the sword. It's very good.
Like, I would say like Hijikata, but Hijikata is like such a like comic relief character. At the same time, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those cases where like Hijikata is such a like well-known character to the Japanese people that it's kind of similar to like Nobu, where like he gets a serious moment like once in a blue moon, and the rest of the time it's just like, well, we're just gonna do funny haha jokes because most of you guys will be like, it's like the DiCaprio point meme, you know. When you see Oda Nobunaga, somebody in Japan goes, I know that guy. It's the same with I think it's the same with Hijikata, given that how much he shows up in fiction anyway. But yeah, Saito's pretty cool, and I do like what Fate has done with Okita. Vibes-wise, though, there is definitely something to be said for the fact that Lucky is right. Saito, I think, is always a straight man in the comedy routine, which is required, by the way. You can't, despite what Guda Guda may try to teach you, you can't have 5 jokesters and no straight man. You need somebody to be an even level. Keisuke's cool, but I also think that he's got some, like, he is not like a perfectly developed character yet either.
Keisuke, I need some. The problem with Keisuke is he's too new.
Yeah,
it's like once he has some time to breathe in here, because I do like Keisuke. I do. I like his design a lot too, but like he's just kind of too fresh. He has to go through the Guda Gudas.
Yeah, I think in both of his Guda Guda appearances, he has been like the more serious edge. What is?
Yeah, but post Guda Guda, he seems to be a himbo.
In the epilogue stuff so far, he's been mostly just like, hey man, I'm just happy to be here, okay? I don't gotta worry about shit anymore. My friends aren't mad at me. My ghost girlfriend has moved on. Everything's fine, man. Right, I remember now. The TV trope, I don't think it's the exact trope name, but it's like the general vibe of the TV trope I'm talking about is the Cerberus syndrome, the idea that, like, so far Yaminami has been kind of a harbinger of more serious stories that have kind of relaxed, as opposed to, like, I would arguably say both Himiko and Io, while they're, like, characters that are in serious stories, they are not necessarily very serious. They're both very, like, emotive in almost comical ways because of how far apart they are. But I do like that they made Io and Himiko, even if they are, like, it's the most basic bitch foil shit ever. One of them's the sun, one of them's the moon, you know?
One of them punches, one of them kicks. One of them's red, one of them's blue.
Like, yeah, it's the most obvious shit ever, but it does really work because it does mean that they are different characters. So Himiko is, you know, really bright and bubbly and, like, I don't care, man, punch it. Whereas Io's, like, you know, kind of, like, sad, depressive, overworked. They were supposed to be anime rivals, but Himiko said, no, I'm too dumb for that. Punch. You are mine now. I'm too straightforward. I'm not getting involved in this bullshit. And then if we could get Kuchika Chico, we could get the Power Trio. Come on. You know you want your FGO. You're being rescued. Please do not resist. God, Rogue One is so good. Watch that again.
So, with that, we move on to our last one. This last one comes from Agent 418, who says, hello, Lucky Omega. Are there any comics, mangas, manga, etc. that you're reading recently? For me, it's Blinded by the Setting Sun, and I'm the evil lord of an intergalactic empire. Wait, is it Overlord or... No, it is just Evil Lord, okay. May you both have a good weekend, y'all. I say that because I looked up at my to be read books and I have volume 6 of the light novel sitting there. It's like, oh yeah. Oh man, like I have a fuck ton of books that I need to read. Like I'm reading, like, luckily for me, reading manga online is like easy as breathing to me. I can just do that. But when it actually comes to like my physical printed books, it's taken me a while. Like, oh god, let's see here. What's in my list here? Let me pull it up here. Well, don't pull it up here, but let me look on my shelf here. I have 3 volumes of Trapped in a Dating Sim, The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs. I have 2 volumes of Reborn as a Space Mercenary, I Woke Piloting the Strongest Starship. I have 1 volume of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. 1 volume of Failure Frame, I Became the Strongest, and Annihilated. Hang on. Annihilated Everything with Low-Level Spells. Let's see here. I got 2 volumes of The World's Finest Assassin. Was reincarnated into another world as an aristocrat. Got 1 volume of Spirit Chronicles. 2 volumes of How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. 1 volume of Orc Eroica. And 1 volume of Survival in Another World with My Mistress. I should probably actually organize these. We're kind of all over the place. And that's just the light novels. I still have two Daidoji Shin novels to read. Because Mega got me the 3rd one. I'm like, son of a bitch, I need to read this.
Especially because there's 4 of them out and the 5th one's coming. Yeah.
Survival in Another World with My Mistress is just another isekai, but the guy has the power of Minecraft. That's honestly, it's not as good as I was expecting. That's why I kind of haven't finished it. It's kind of
actually, no, I think the 5th Daidoji Shin is out. I just haven't bought that. Yeah, my book backlog is divided into 2 steps. I have books I'm backlogged on, which is both the Final Fantasy VII books you got me, and also still haven't caught up on Jim Butcher's Olympian Affair, or the Legends and Lattes prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I own, but is currently on my shelf unread. And then there's stuff I need to purchase and have delivered to me. That will probably wait until after I've moved, but yes, that will be, like, because Jim Butcher's son wrote a book that I still haven't checked out that I believe was pretty well, which is another urban fantasy. And also, like I said, there's another Daidoji Shin to catch up on, and there might be some other L5R books to catch up with. I did chew through a decent chunk of my backlog during the, like... This is my primary thing. Like, I don't want it to be this way. I feel like right now, when I read the most is when my fucking power goes out, because then I literally can't do anything. Like, we do have, like, our router and modem, like, on a battery backup, which lasts, like, an hour. So like technically I can be on YouTube or check Twitter for like an hour, but like after that, there's fucking nothing to do. So that's when I get a lot of my reading in. But that should not be where I necessarily catch up on my reading. But I mentioned earlier I'm juggling like a whole bunch of different video games I do want to be playing. So it's like what I do before bed is in that ballpark usually. I will say that not necessarily like conventional comics, but I am because we have been talking about space stuff a lot, and the guy's got my brain turning. I have been rereading the webcomic Schlock Mercenary, which is not exactly because I think it's even a little harder sci-fi than I'm going, but it is kind of an inspiration for a lot of the sci-fi stuff I've written over the years. It was a very long-running webcomic. It ran from, I don't remember the exact date in the year 2000, but it ended in 2020.
Oh.
And it was updated daily every day for those 20 years.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, the artist and author is great. Some of you may also have heard of it because it is the source setting for the tabletop RPG Planet Mercenary, which I know Loth has played, and some other people might have heard. But yeah, it's a I would say it's straightforward, but it starts with a very simple premise. It is about a bunch of a mercenary company in a sci-fi future who gets caught up in a lot of high-level, fate of the galaxy type bullshit and politics, but also sometimes get involved in, petty bullshit like, well, guess what? Our flagship has been blown up for the 4th time in this comic book story. We need to afford a new one. How will we do that? Well, guess what? 5 of you, you're mall cops now, but it's a space mall. So, so I have been rereading that. It is technically a comic. It is formatted in usually like the what you would think of as like newspaper comics in the old 3 to 4 strip. Sundays are big. That's something that I've just realized just now. Some people in our audience are not going to follow that one. Because I don't actually know how many people read newspaper comics anymore. Most of them are like posted to online archives as well these days, but like that's a whole medium that, because the newspaper is dying, a lot of people probably don't have a point of reference for. I remember the Sunday funnies. But yes, that's what I do in my downtime between writing and playing games right now, is I'm rereading Schlock Mercenary.
And, well, let me do one last refresh here just to make sure. Okay. And with that, we are done with Mailbag. Thank you everyone so much.
Alright, I will also close that tab. Well, that takes us technically to Free Talk, where I have blocked out, in brackets, a block for New Yamatai Koku final thoughts, as I did catch up on all my NP copies and stuff. Work through all those bonus quests.
Mm-hmm. I have as well, so I can consider myself done.
Yeah.
And it's, for lack of a better word, classic Guda Guda.
Yes, I do think I kind of like how they do this for usually the epilogue for Guda Gudas, because most Guda Gudas do already have an epilogue type thing. They add some extra quests. As kind of a palate cleanser, the ending of this one's normal story was very, emotional and fraught, and then now we can get to the fucking tea golem space guy, or the incident with Hijikata getting his red glowing eyes but doing nothing but yelling chilled pickles. So it's good for a chuckle. It leans more serious but still more gaggy kind of at the end when you have that final climax with fighting Super Rikyu. But it's more serious, but it's still in a funny way, because it ends with Komahime being very upset, and Rikyu utters the literal line, "I've made a huge mistake." Which, especially with Rikyu's side of the facial expressions, is very good. So
I love that. The next frame is super cute, super Komahime. It's oh
yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no. The body is always Komahime's, but you can tell based on which Ascension sprite it's in who is in the driver's seat, with Rikyu being piloting the lower Ascensions, and then Komahime is always being specifically the third and up. So I think they do a good job of differentiating it. And I mentioned this, I think, last week, but I will reiterate. I like that they get some mileage out of the, two of them switching bodies gag. Which personality comes to the forefront. So all in all, yes, very good Guda Guda. We have a very extended prologue of, it's all peaceful and stuff. But all on good rating. Let's see. Next year's will be late, right? Because that will be the Superhighway one. That one will be interesting to see. I mean, it does make me wonder, like, again, how I think based on like the preview images and like the more NPC jail guys, that one's gonna also start semi-serious, but probably get stupid in the postscript in a good way. But yeah, let's see. Let's check the old clock. Just under 1 hour. Pretty solid. But yeah, in that case, got a few bits of the biz in the What's Up zone to talk about, because some stuff's been going on. Let's see. Well, first, in my notes anyway, is the first of Helldivers 2's big balance patches has hit. It was earlier this week. And generally, I think people would say we're in the we're so back part of the cycle.
Yeah.
Like, all in all, obviously, like, numbers on Steam have surged. They're not, like, as crazy good as the, like, release weekend when the servers were exploding, kind of levels. But they're significantly higher. You see a lot, like, I have seen multiple tens of thousands of divers scattered all over the galaxy when I have been logging in this week to actually play. So, like, definitely the play levels are up. You're not seeing, like, as many, chaos diver memes about deliberately trying to fail objectives and shit. I did actually see a post on, like, the Helldivers subreddit, which I think does have a point where, like, be cautious of people trying to, like, whitewash, for lack of a better term, like, how bad the community was before this update, because, like, people were, like, real mean for a while before this. We both agree that there were quite a lot of legitimate criticisms in there of, like, just how parts of the game didn't feel fun, and it did kind of feel like they were just nerfing some things to nerf them, or they were working to correlate things to bug fix things, but it was, having lots of unintended knock-on effects, and they just were not in a state to be able to revert changes that were clearly not intended. But no, like, in general, the results have been pretty positive. I think the community's turned around a lot, and a lot of people are having fun. And, like, all in all, I think it's a pretty good update. It's a pretty good fix. They're not done yet. This was only, like, the first chunk. They're already cooking up the next one of more big balances, and probably a few, buffs, adjustments, maybe some new content. We are also very clearly in some sort of story arc as the nondescript terminid fart cloud is spreading.
Yep. And
the automatons are kind of, like, walking across the outer edge of the galaxy. They're getting pretty close to crossing over with terminid territory. That does make me wonder if they're going to release, like, dual invasion maps before they release the Illuminate, because that could be also pretty interesting. But, like, all in all, they've done a lot of changes. A lot of balanced stuff has happened to enemies, which, like, I think that's the number one thing that I really appreciate, is just, like, enemies getting nerfed too. Like, a lot of enemies have had their armor values adjusted or their limb HP adjusted. Multiple updates were done to chargers to, like, affect their sprint speed and turning radius and, like, how much damage you take. They also, like, rebalanced rocket devastators so that they can only they literally can only fire as many rockets as they have in their shoulder pods, and then they can do a reloading animation and reload them once, and then they're done. Then they're just regular devastators. So, like, a lot of work being done there. They actually affected my personal kryptonite, the enemies I hated the most, automaton berserkers, who were just way too fucking meaty for an enemy that can show up on, like, difficulty 2. They did actually reduce their overall HP and also made it so that their not just their small heads, but their glowing red center of mass is also a critical weak point.
Yeah, I always thought their center of mass was a weak point, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. And I think I saw several people posting about that when that appeared in the changelog of, like, yeah, no, I think they just did the logical thing and, like, we're like, well, it does glow red. We should probably make that the weak point. So, yeah. They did kind of adjust how Helldivers take damage, so it does kind of feel like you're sometimes as fragile as people used to be before they actually fixed the bugged armor values.
Mm-hmm.
And they did literally change how, like, extra, like, crit damage to limbs works. So you actually take that debilitating damage to, like, your arm or leg or even chest a lot more. But they did also reduce the crit multiplier damage on headshots that Helldivers take. So you are still way less likely to be snuffed out in an instant, right?
Right.
So, like, overall, I've put in a decent amount of play. Still have not quite saved up enough super credits for the new War Bond, because they have released the new chemical one, which people do seem to be enjoying. I know there was some, like I said, I saw some grumbling online that they're putting, like, stratagems in a War Bond. And my comments about that are, like, yeah, I mean, normally stratagem unlocks have been through, like, major orders and stuff, but also sometimes that takes, like, 2 months to be unlocked. Like, if they want to do a themed update, they kind of have to put it in a war pod, because otherwise, God knows when the players will get around to unlocking it. Looking at you, Anti-Tank Mines. But yeah, like, so overall, I think we're going good. They did actually change how gas operates to make it different from fire. The amount of damage over time it does is lowered, but it now inhibits enemy senses and confuses them. People have literally reported stuff like chargers freaking out and rushing their own side, automatons shooting at each other, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, like, that's really neat, actually. I like that change, because it does make it different from fire, which also, generally, it seems like they've put the flamethrower back to the pre-patch levels, and they've fixed a lot of the fire effects and stuff, so fire feels about right. Even before they did the fire patch, the fucking orbital napalm barrage is crazy. Like, it has as long a cooldown as the, like, 380, but, and, well, only individual shots, I think, only do, like, 120mm damage, but you get a big area of fire that lasts a while.
It's a little scary.
Yeah. And I don't know if they actually said if they fixed spawn rates at all, but I do kind of feel like the spawn rates are better. Like I mentioned this to you, I actually did a, like, defeat automatons, you know, like, defense type mission on 3 that I failed because they didn't spawn enemies fast enough, and we did one together where you actually asked, oh, are we gonna have enough guys spawn that we can actually finish the mission?
Yeah.
And we did. We had like 6 minutes left, which is like way further down in the time ratio than normal, but it was a concern. So, like, I do actually feel like I haven't tried, like, going all the way up to, like, 6 yet, because we haven't had, like, a full crew in for very long. But it does feel like the spawns are better, enemies are more responsive. A lot of guns are just better to fire now. Like, they gave the Eruptor back its shrapnel.
Yep.
It's not the... apparently, the reason why it was a problem was because they accidentally used the orbital airburst shrapnel effect, so it was doing, like, way, way more damage than it needed to. Now what it is they use the effect and damage similar to a frag grenade explosion. Also something that I don't know if they actually, like, clearly stated or not, but I've noticed. They've actually changed the amount of grenades you get for different things. Like, they did buff the damage on a frag grenade a little, so I wanted to try it out. They give you 5 now, max.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it seems like higher power grenades, like the new thermite grenade, which I fucking love, they actually made it do the proper dot and with, like, armor penetration, and they also increased its explosion damage by a lot. So it's a really good way to, like, stick an armored enemy and just be like, run away. Like so many, there were a couple of times where, like, a charger would spawn, I would just be like, yoink! I would throw the thermite grenade, stick it, and just be like, okay, now we run away until that problem is solved. But you only get 3 of them, which I think is a fair balance, because it is, if you stick it on a charger or other medium armor enemy, they are toast. You can stick them to fabricators and make them toast, because they rebalanced how fabricators work, so that fabricators actually have, like, proper armor and HP values now, so there's a lot of things that can defeat them without using their weak points, you know? Which I like, because specifically that feels like that was balanced around the commando, because they talked about how the 4-shot commando rocket launcher was one-shotting fabbers from, like, the sides or back, and they were like, that's not intended, but people like it, so we're going to look at it. So now they kind of, like, adjusted it so that you can still do that. It takes you, like, 2 rockets now, but it's doable still. And if you want to guarantee you can kill them automatically with one shot from a long, long way away, the spear is still there, and does a pretty good job. I don't think they actually did much to adjust how the spear functions, other than just... They changed a lot about how armored damage is modeled. They, like, de-nerfed the railgun, kind of? I don't know if the aiming model is different. I gotta say, I don't feel as successful with the railgun, even after this patch, as I used to, but it still works, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, technically, I believe if you hit the weak pots, you can 2-shot a Bile Titan. There's also so many things that 1-shot a Bile Titan, so that's not even that impressive. But, like, using the railgun against chargers, it still takes me usually, like, 3 or 4 shots to, like, find something important. Because it is the railgun is a pretty small hitbox. You need to be very accurate. I know you were pleasantly surprised when they, but they did buff, like, the autocannon performance a little.
Yeah.
I think they gave it, like, some more durable damage. So, like, all in all, it's a really great balance update. I'm glad that they're not done. I do hope that they don't take too long with further updates. I know for sure they've said they're going to work on the jump pack next, which is going to be interesting. Because it is kind of like a for as far and high as you jump, and you can still be cockblocked by enemy mass. It's a little anemic, but it's still cool. So overall, like my impressions, like I said, I've been playing decently. Like I'm back to putting in like a couple hours every day to try and grind super credits and just test different weapons. All in all, I do think it's very positive. Like I think their updates to some of the war bonds that were not very appealing, like make them better. Like all the arc weapons now like have a stun effect they can accumulate, but also most of them can like arc farther, so you really need to watch that friendly fire. They buffed the explosive crossbow to like also like do more damage, and I think to have a little better like rate of fire. But also, hey, that damage buff, don't fire that point blank. You shoot that shit at your feet in light armor, you die too. But like honestly, I think I like the I think you agree, but I'll ask you if you agree on my stance here. But I like Helldivers 2 perfectly fine when the reason I'm getting killed is because I do something dumb.
Oh yes, totally.
Like when I go like, oh shit, I forgot I'm holding an explosive crossbow and shot a guy 2 feet away from me. My bad. That's my bad, you know?
Do you know how many times I throw a grenade point blank?
Yeah, and we usually use impacts of some kind.
Of some kind. And I think usually my immediate reaction is to start laughing.
Yeah, it's just like, whoops, I blew myself up, you know? Or other shit like I said, I tried a lot of shit, so there have been times I've pulled out like the grenade pistol and gone like, wait a minute, that's a bad idea, that's my grenade pistol. And all kinds of other stuff. Or the other day, was it right, I think you were trying the orbital napalm and you blew us both up and you were like, whoops, my bad, and I'm like, yeah, I think you threw that a little too close.
Yeah, I think I tried a few of the big orbitals. I'm like, no, this ain't me. I can't do this.
Yeah,
I keep killing us.
I mean, and I will say, I do like the big orbitals, but I have more practice. I think I've got a good eyeball on how big the radius is. You know, like that's it is something you want to like take into account, because I remember when we first started, like when we were first playing, me taking the 380 was Loth would go, oh shit, he's taking the 380. Everybody, get ready, we're gonna die, because they did actually like fix the scatter a little on both the orbitals to be a little tighter, but yeah, it was still new. So you'd throw them close and you'd be like, oh shit. Yeah. So like, I think the game works better when you can comically kill yourself doing funny ways, and less like, oh shit, I'm being ragdolled by rockets, and then there's a giant guy and he stepped on me. Or again, the thing with like chargers of just like, okay, so like every charger was a crisis because you can't outrun them, you can't dodge them. They're immune to most weapons you're carrying unless you're carrying a dedicated anti-armor weapon. What the fuck do we do? Like they were always a threat you had to respond to. Now, literally, like I said, you can stick them with a thermite grenade and fucking skedaddle, and they actually like they don't have a 0G turning radius. And not everything is perfect. I do think I hope they rebalance bug holes a little, because like there are good things that kill bug holes, like the exploding crossbow does it now. Like you just put it in the hole and they're done. So like that's neat, but also, there's a lot of stuff that I think does do enough damage, but just can't get into the hitbox. I would like if we could work on that a little. And I know that they've said they're working on this, but like they actually acknowledged that big enemies being dead silent when they sneak up behind you is not intentional. Like they're now marking that as a bug, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually something I've really disliked. I'm glad they've acknowledged it and are hopefully working on it. I am kind of curious to see like with other big updates, because like a lot of people have been pointing out that with the addition of the now like chemical themed warbond, other than maybe finally the sneaky themed warbond, we may be running out of warbond themes. I think a lot of people are hoping for another free warbond.
Yes,
like to kind of reset everything. Yeah, I know. This is something you've said a lot. And I think I agree. Especially if we are going to put new stratagems out there, I would not mind a big free warbond as an alternative way to unlock new stratagems that we know have been in the game files but have not been done anything with. Like, still don't have the APC, still don't have like the dune buggy. There are data mine stuff for like summoning like Seif soldiers to help you. There may be a couple different like airstrikes they haven't like done yet. I've always been very curious because supposedly there were data mined stratagems for different kinds of deployable cover, like to actually deploy like chest or head high walls, sometimes with machine guns mounted in them. So like I wouldn't mind seeing some more of that. And I do hope that like they do eventually get to a a gun customizing or upgrading system. Like, I know you've talked about wanting to, like, get more static progression besides just, I think once you hit, like, level 25, you can unlock every available stratagem.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, while ship upgrades are pretty good, they are still super costly. Like, if we wanted to, we could probably manage going to 6 to farm super samples. We haven't done that because Lost's been at his job training a lot, so he's busy. He's being an adult boy with many adult things to do. But we could probably knuckle in and get a decent chunk of super samples, but they are pretty sample expensive. And also, I don't know if they're regular sample expensive enough, you know, because I've still got max of that shit, and I'm back to max rec slips after buying the orbital napalm. So like, we need something you can spend rec slips on, right?
Right.
Like the stratagems are expensive, but once you've unlocked all of them, you got nothing, and also they're not costly enough that when we unlock a new stratagem, like I said, like every couple of months, they don't actually set you back far enough that you don't just instantly top out anyway. So like that, I'm hopeful that they will do because there is a gun upgrade or customizing system in Helldivers 1, and I believe Arrowhead has said they're willing to do it. I just imagine that that's the kind of feature that has been put on the back burner because they are focusing on basically the health and wellness update, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I know Rainbow Six Siege did a similar project. What was that called? Was that Project Health? The Operation like healing or something? Operation Recovery maybe? But like they did a whole they turned their like balance patch and reintroducing systems into like an event, like a themed patch cycle. So we're kind of in that right now, I think. But yeah, it's been good to see him turn it around, and like I said, while we should not forget just how prickly the community could get, it does hearten me to see that people are like not really holding grudges. Like, a lot of people were like, I'll never pick up this game again. Well, they're back. Does that make them a hypocrite? Probably. But they're having fun. Probably. So, to see people come back in, and it's good, because it shows that the game is not doomed, unlike some games that are doomed, or were doomed, like Concord, which, sadly, it did apparently come out that it was a very expensive budget game. It's like somebody said $400 million? Because it better not have been billion with a B. That's bad.
That's bad.
Yeah, $400 million. Yes, Legendary made the meme edit. This is the worst day of my life. Which also, once again, astonishes me that Sony just straight up pulled the plug. Like, shout out to them for not having sunk cost fallacy on this, but also, damn. It basically, to switch a little gears from Helldivers, though, Lucky, if you've got anything else to say about your, you haven't clocked in as many hours, but you've played a little. If you got anything else to say about the update.
I really don't know.
Okay. Hey, it's an ongoing
you've hit all the points.
Yeah. I could get into minutiae about like individual guns they've fixed, but I won't. Other than just like I do want to say that I do appreciate that they buffed the normal Liberator assault rifle. That's good. It actually does stuff now. I feel comfortable using the normal Liberator and the Liberator carbine. But yeah, no, like the problem with Concord seems to have been basically they talked about it like it sounds like they just got tunnel vision, and whether it was at the exec level or at some of the higher like team lead level, they developed what they called a culture of toxic positivity, where just like if you like pointed out a flaw or had a complaint or like were trying to work on like improving something, that basically you got shouted down. And I think the end result shows it's a game that was clearly made without actually taking a hard look and making compromises, Like, there are a lot of really great games that are flawed masterpieces because they were at that level. And I don't think the 400 million is necessarily talking about the marketing. That's just how, like, over the 8 years it was in the hole. But I feel I shouldn't feel bad for Sony because they hopefully know what they're doing, and they're doing lots of things. And also, they do. I got to assume it's just because they're cheap, but they do keep trying to do PS5 remasters of games that don't need remasters. You could literally just do updates. And a lot of games do have next gen updates, but that's a slightly different discussion. I think I get what Sony's angle on that is. I think it's a bad angle, but I think I understand it. But back to Concord, it sounds like ultimately Sony was like really overpromised this process because like the marketing guys and the execs and the team leads were all like, no, it's great. We're gonna give you a Star Wars level franchise. Even with Star Wars being a franchise that has depreciated in value, That's a very good question. Has anybody clocked if Disney's made their money back yet?
I don't know.
They spent
I
like
have
$4 billion.
I have heard that we're getting a third Cal Kestis game, and it's gonna be the final one, and everyone says he's going to fucking die.
I mean, probably. See, the problem with, especially with modern Star Wars, is that, like, unfortunately, because we started with a 20 years later sequel trilogy that, like, unfortunately had to go down the stupid-ass direction of resetting the timeline twice. Because not only did they already reset the timeline to get us to the point of The Force Awakens, we also reset the timeline, like, 2 or 3 times in each movie. But that unfortunately means that, like, basically everybody in canon is fucked. Cal Kestis either has to die or he has to go into hiding in, like, the fucking unknown regions until after Skywalker comes out, the Legacy movie. So we're in rough circumstances there, and that's, like, not Respawn's fault. That's the fault of Disney for honestly just not having their shit like. Okay, I understand. George Lucas wrote the first 3 original movies by the seat of his pants. Darth Vader was definitely not Luke's father, and Leia was not Luke's sister until Empire. And in fact, Leia probably wasn't Luke's sister until Return. Well, that's why I say he has to go hide out in the unknown regions, right? Like, Luke Skywalker is a fucking celebrity in Star Wars. He defeated Darth Vader and blew up some Death Stars, you know? Like, I still haven't played the second game. I need to. I heard it had a rough, there were some tech glitches in the launch, but I need to catch up now that we've announced the trilogy, and it's probably stable. It's been a while, but my backlog continues to grow. But, like, Luke Skywalker is a fucking galaxy-wide celebrity, and so the fact that he goes on to the return of the Return to Jedi, he goes on to establish his own Jedi Order teaching, which presumably people know about. I can tell you for damn sure that they did one of the wackest things ever, which is, they on-screen showed Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker talking. Crazy how they made that canon line back up again. Cal Kestis, like, either has to be so deep in a hole that he doesn't want to come out to join that crew, or he's got to be dead, basically. Like, or the writing of the final game has to be such that, like, he can straight up just retire. Like, the problem with that is, despite the fact that I think that is a decent way for characters on a heroic journey to end their stories, players and audiences don't usually like the retirement ending. I think it's valid for you to just be like, all right, cool, I've had 3 acts of a fucking trilogy structure adventure. I'm gonna go get married, start a farm, have a bunch of kids. I'm gonna bury my lightsaber in the backyard and hope to God I never need to use it again. Fuck you. I'm going home. Never call me again. Like I said, I haven't played the second game, so I don't know, like, where Cal's character's going in that. But, like, I think as of the first one, Cal Kestis could be that guy. But he has to go through 2 more games of character development, so it's that. And like I said, players don't necessarily like that ending these days. I don't think that's very popular. I don't actually know what happened with Marin. She's on your ship in the end of the first game.
I'm kind of in there, but I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
I haven't beat the game, but I am a ways through it. I should pop that back open. I should start working on that because I own it.
I'll add it to my budgetary backlog. There's so many games this year, and new games keep coming out. Astrobot was luckily not super long to complete, though I do have to complete the super secret Golden Statue Mega ending level to do that, and then fish out the rest of my trophies for the Platinum someday, but we can wait a little bit on that one. Fucking Mario Dark Side of the Moon type shit. It is interesting that, like, I do think that a lot of franchises have that problem where, like, especially when you're part of, like, a wider universe, we don't like to just let characters lie. We're getting to the point where, like, with Marvel, where, like, to get the first tier of Marvel characters out of the story, they had to start killing guys or send Captain America back through time the long way, which probably doesn't make any fucking kind of sense. Does that mean there were 2 Captain Americas the whole time, Marvel, MCU, I refuse to answer any questions. Okay, shit, he was just fucking time looped, I guess. I don't know. Good for him, I guess. He gave us a great reaction meme, Steve Rogers. Thank you very much. The source of, no, I don't think I will. Solid meme. But yeah, like, so Star Wars, I feel like, is the same fucking way, except that our unfortunate problem is that a lot of our characters are alive, but unfortunately their actors are dead or incapacitated. We talked about it before, but we've actually, I didn't mention this exact context, but we've reached the unfortunate state where all of the original actors who portrayed Darth Vader are deceased. His suit actor died. James Earl Jones, the voice, died. Both of his face doubles died. Like, the only person left alive is Hayden Christensen, who has been in the suit for work, but was not part of the original trilogy crew in Darth Vader, obviously. Shout out to Hayden Christensen, though. Like, I know he gets a lot of flack for the movies, and he definitely has some wooden deliveries, but he seems to have taken it on the chin and kind of come back to the universe as an elder statesman. And Ewan McGregor's still just happy to be here, y'all. I don't think he's ever gotten over being cast as, like, young Obi-Wan in Phantom Menace and just being like, man, that's rad. But we're British, and he's just here. Also, shout out to Ewan McGregor. Got a Hollywood star, I believe, last week.
Yeah.
Put him on the Walk of Fame. Good for him.
Yeah, Hayden Christensen was there, too.
Yeah, they get to hang out. I think I saw some pictures of that. But yeah, like, so for the whatever the third Jedi Survivor Fallen Order type game is, I suspect a lot of people are going to guess that he's going to die or do a heroic sacrifice kind of a thing. I kind of hope he doesn't, just because everybody thinks so, but it is one of those unfortunate things where I feel like everything in Star Wars is kind of written into weird corners where, like, everybody's got to die or go into hiding, because otherwise the movies don't make sense. And unfortunately, I don't think Disney is yet at the step where they want to just pretend those movies didn't happen. Honestly, they should. They should just write off the sequel trilogy as a bad dream, because I don't think any of those fucking actors want to come back. Like, they all had a terrible time, except maybe Adam Driver. I guess, and Oscar Isaac, but he also got to do other shit that people like. No, Adam Driver's good. They also did the dumbest fucking thing where they fucking killed him. I think he was at his best as a character when he was, like, halfway redeemed. Adam Driver
him and 3. I loved him.
Yeah, no, like, when he there's that moment that's still burned into my mind. Like, Rise of Skywalker is dumb, but there's some good shit in it. The moment where he, like, does a jump and just kind of, like, thumps his chest and just goes, oh. It's just, it's so real, and it's so Han Solo coded. I'm just like, I'm so sad that they killed him at the end, because that means we can't get him back just being Ben Solo. I wanted to see what that guy was like. Or the fucking moment where, like, Rey, teleportation passes him the lightsaber, and he just shrugs to the Knights of Red, like, sorry guys, you're dead. Like, no, it's like, yeah, no. So, like I said, Adam Driver, I think, had an okay time, but he's fucking dead. Oscar Isaac is, riding pretty high, but, like, John Boyega did not have a good time. I don't think Daisy really had a good time. Like, most of the actors that were supposed to be our new heroes were just not treated very well by the toxic parts of the fan base, and they were not given good projects to be in,
Yeah, no, I really wanted something more from my boy Finn, but
Finn was so mishandled. Like, it sucks so much, and I don't know what was it like, focus testing bullshit, or just they didn't want to do that with Boyega, or just they did so many rewrites that they kind of lost him in the shuffle. Like, because I don't think Finn had to be become a Jedi to, like, lock it up, but, like, we should have done much more directly with his Rebel Stormtrooper angle, and, like, I don't know, man. Honestly, the way the current, like, canonicity is going, like, I know George Lucas kind of fucked himself a little with midichlorians, but, like, the general vibe we seem to be going back to is, once again, truly kind of anybody can be a Jedi. Not everybody's going to be a good Jedi, but anybody can, like, listen to the Force and pick up some tricks. So, like, what the fuck, you can't even have a lightsaber, But again,
I'm sorry, I just keep thinking about all the things, like how Captain Phasma was just not used. Oh,
Captain Phasma, the trying so hard to force the Boba Fett effect, but not even
giving her the screen time to do it. Son of a
and Boba Fett doesn't even have that much screen time. The problem is, the thing with Boba Fett is, the original character of Boba Fett anyway, is an exercise in minimalism. Boba Fett is just the guy in the coolest looking armor in the bounty hunter scenes in Empire Strikes Back, who has, like, the best lines. Like, OG Boba Fett has some cold-ass lines where he's just like, what is it? Darth Vader turns to him and is like, no disintegrations, and he's just like, that's gonna cost extra. And that's
so
it.
good.
Boba Fett's just
Could've
the
been so
weird
amazing.
guy. No, Gwendolyn Christie's great too. But, like, Phasma just kind of exists, and, like, they tried to, like, make her more of a character in, like, some backstory novels, but also they made, like, from what I understand, I haven't actually read, like, the Phasma novels or anything from that era. Like, the character where she crops up is, like, she's like the annoying recurring mini-boss character because, like, she's that annoying asshole who will do anything to survive. She's not even, like, really loyal to the First Order. It's just that that's the group she hooked up with to, like, get through some bad shit, and she just sticks around because of it. And it's just, no matter what, I think we can say that, unfortunately, overall, the sequel trilogy is disappointing. There were some interesting visuals they did. I liked some of the thematic stuff they did, but the problem was that they tried to do it like George did in the 70s and 80s and write it by the seat of their pants, but that's just not how we do movies anymore. Like, say what you will for, like, where Marvel has kind of gone after the kind of, like, Thanos duology, right? The Infinity Gauntlet saga. But, like, up until that point, those movies were plotted like clockwork, right? Like, every fucking movie had a post-credit scene with a Nick Fury cameo, or an Infinity Stone, or, like, Thanos smirking in the background. Like, every movie, even the first Avengers, was setting up that, like, hey, we got more stuff. We're working on stuff. We're doing the comics book crossover thing. We're leading up to stuff. We're going to introduce this character, and that's going to, cross over with that guy, and it's going to come together in the big fucking movie. Like, Star Wars needed that action, unfortunately. Like and the problem is that I think now with the way they're doing shit, like, God, I'm still so behind. I pay for Disney Plus. I need to catch up on like, they're greenlighting a second season of Andor. Also, I should watch The Acolyte because, like, I don't actually know if The Acolyte was bad. The thing it mostly seems to have done that people think was bad is it had choreo and it has women characters in it. And maybe it gets a little weird with some of the Force magic shit. That's not a deal breaker for me. I love the bullshit Force magic stuff. I love it when the Force is weird. I love especially when the dark side is really weird. Like, the old school KOTOR days of, like, and the original, like, the Old Republic, like, Sith alchemy shit where, like, oh yeah, no, so the light side of the Force lets you, like, heal people and turn into a Force ghost and shit. But, like, Sith alchemy lets you create, like, zombies and dragons and stuff, man. Yes, our good buddy, the Sith battle Hydra, like, that kind of stuff was, like, always really cool to me, and I feel like that kind of, like, went by the wayside, probably because it would involve special effects, but yeah, like, I feel like the way that, like, Star Wars, like, TV entries is they are, like, really good and like, genuinely well thought out most of the time, but, like, the movies were very poorly handled, and it's a shame, because, like, God, I don't think I watched the last couple episodes of the most recent season of Mandalorian, but, like, some of the shit they did in The Mandalorian was so fucking hype. They brought Dark Troopers into the canon, y'all, in Mandalorian. They gave them a fucking, dubstep drop, and they showed how fucking Billy badass they are. And then, do you know what they've done with this, chat? This is spoilers for The Mandalorian, like, season 2, but if you're not gonna watch it, you're not gonna watch it without this. Do you know how they defeat the Dark Troopers, chat? And Lucky, because he's never seen The Mandalorian.
I have never seen The Mandalorian, no.
A lone X-Wing flies into the bad guy's ship, and a guy in a hood with a green lightsaber comes out, and he kicks all their asses. Surprise, it's Luke Skywalker. They give Luke Skywalker his own version of the Darth Vader hallway scene from Rogue One, where he just beats the shit out of some Dark Troopers, and it's good. Like, it's not Kyle Katarn defeats Dark Troopers with his bare hands, which you could do in the old Dark Forces game, but, like, it was very good. like, just seeing, like, all of our, like, no, they're full droids. I think in the story they actually use the Phase 1 or Phase 2 excuse. Phase 0 Dark Troopers were cyborgs in the old school canon, which they may actually use again. But like I said, like, it's such great build-up where, like, all of our protagonists are like, well, we're really tough, but, like, we're just a bunch of Mandalorians and space mercs and stuff. Like, these robot guys are also pretty tough and scary. What do we do about this? Nah, man, we got a protagonist for this. It was such a hype moment. But, like, it's just the kind of thing where, like, Star Wars has been mishandled. Like, Star Wars video games have been mishandled. It's so funny to me that, like, we talked about this a lot when we've been playing through Titanfall 2. Like, what's Respawn doing, right? Well, I think Respawn's, like, single-player type team is out there crunching Star Wars games because they're good. They're, like, the first, like, really good, complete, AAA type Star Wars video games that EA has put out, which is crazy because, like, EA had an exclusive license, which did get revoked, but they had an exclusive license for a long time. They could not turn out anything worthwhile for a while. And they had some smaller games that were good. Like, I liked Squadrons for what it was. Like, for a modern flight sim with kind of like a back and forth thing, it was pretty good. I do think that they didn't quite go as wild with what I would want out of, like, a flight simulator in Star Wars. And I will say, I feel like that was a lot of Star Wars video games' problem, was, like, they kept making these, like, big, true-to-screen, big-budget games with, like, the Battlefront remakes that DICE did made such a big deal out of, like, photo scanning the old props and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but is it fun? And it's like, yeah, it's a blaster. I don't know. It's just like any old other blaster. I really wanted them to put that kind of, like, gun customization, like, mod bullshit you can do in Battlefield games into Star Wars. And if you don't think that would work, chat, just look at all the shit they bent over backwards to put in Battlefield 1, the World War I shooter, to make, like, gun mods, and that makes sense. They dug up every possible weird gun tech out there. They're like, okay, so you got your regular Luger. Well, have you ever seen the artillery Luger with the snail drum and the stock and the weird long barrel? Because we haven't invented submachine guns yet. And it's like I want that kind of weirdness in Star Wars. Like I want them to get in the nitty-gritty and, like, give you the ability to, like, do all the greebles. And all the knowledge exists. You know how I know the knowledge exists? I've run a shitload of hours of the Edge of the Empire RPG by Fantasy Flight Games and now Edge Studios. They've got gun mods for days in there. All kinds of nonsense. You could make it work. And I know that EA, anyway, knows that Fantasy Flight exists because for Battlefront 2, the hero ship you had was a Raider-class Corvette, which Fantasy Flight Games, like, helped invent for their X-Wing and Armada miniatures game because there was not an existing Imperial ship in the canon that fit the scale of the game, the war game, yet. So they, like, worked with Lucasfilm to invent a new ship type and what it looked like, and that was, prominently used in Battlefront 2. So, like, they know the shit exists. I feel the same about, like Starship stuff. I'm like, man, give me an X-Wing, but also, like, give me the cool shit. Like, I want to put, afterburners and install funny torpedoes.
I mean, I think you're probably going to do that with your Space Trucker game, honestly.
Oh, yes, no, that's me inventing the thing I want, for something else. But like I said,
this is
for
Pete,
Star Wars,
fine, I'll do it myself.
Yes, many of my homebrew stories have begun that way. But yeah, so we got off on a Star Wars tangent there, so I can crawl out. But it is true that, like, both of us are decently into Star Wars. I used to be a lot more hardcore, but I honestly think I am kind of, like, more midcore about it now. I still like the universe, and I like a lot of the properties in it and the old ideas, but it is also a pain in the ass to keep up with the franchise all the time, and, like, I don't want to, like, be one of those guys who, like, becomes the equivalent of a Disney adult for Star Wars, Yeah. Like, and so, I feel like I've relaxed a little, but there's still some stuff to catch up on, and I don't know, man, just we talk about the sequel trilogy and how much they fumbled the ball. I'm just like, man, speaking of do it myself, I'm like, I could, even if you wanted to throw out all the old canon, I could have written a more, like, cohesive 3-part structure thematically. Spoilers, chat. The simple solution is, hey, the original trilogy was heavily inspired by 3 things for George Lucas cinematically. He watched a lot of samurai movies, he watched a lot of westerns, and he watched a lot of World War II movies. So, culturally, if you want to move the zeitgeist of Star Wars down, don't make the conflict a World War II analog, make it a Cold War analog. Make it, like, fighting in, like, Vietnam or Grenada or, like, other weird places. That's why, you're set back to a smaller scale. I mean, Endor was literally supposed to be a metaphor for Vietnam, but that, like I said, that wasn't actually, like, the pop cultural inspiration that inspired his, like, filmmaking. But yes, Ewoks are supposed to be Viet Cong. Take of that what you will. Oh, and the series Ondor. That's with an A. I mean, yeah, but that's putting it back in the original trilogy timeline. Like I said, the rise of the Empire type era is something that they've been working on a TV series of for like years that never came to fruition. But they did a decent job. Like I said, a sequel trilogy should probably been like Imperial and like New Republic proxy forces in the ass end of the galaxy fighting over planets for no reason because they don't want to officially go to war, kind of stuff. And there's a lot of ways they could have took that. Anyway, I have other things to talk about. Hopefully not for too long, because I don't. I've seen Loth posting, so I don't know if he's around right now. I don't know if we want to try and scoop up a Civ game or not. I don't know what Aaron's doing today.
Aaron has his Pathfinder game, but I don't know how long he's gonna be.
Yeah, I don't know what he's up to. We could string some Civ, or like I said, try and get some more Helldivers hours in.
Yeah.
But a couple of things. One, it just I think it was technically timed to coincide with the PC release of Final Fantasy 16, but the FF16 OST is like out on streaming services everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So is the Helldivers 2 OST, but I'm not as hype about that. But like, yeah, I posted it on like our music channel. There's an official like topic playlist for the whole 16 OST, and the whole thing is up there. Which is great. Finally get to listen to stuff like Heart of Stone, Titan Lost, Ascension, a lot of the decent classics. So the multiple versions of Hideaway. Like it's a good ass soundtrack. Soken's cooking as always. So it's glad to see it out there and updated. I am also glad to see people like playing and enjoying it on PC. Square recently like finally admitted kind of what we'd all thought of, which is they did finally say the words underperformed, didn't meet expectations, and they are kind of thinking about... Square's still trying to figure out what the fuck their business strategy is long term.
I appreciate that they're at least trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And in general, their main thing is they still want to make big AAA type games like numbered Final Fantasies and some of their other titles, like I would argue some of their Dragon Quest have gone that way as well. And even other shit like the productions they've done with, I think I would say, Nier and some other franchises they've gotten their belt as well. But making like really high fidelity, big budget single player games is also expensive. And so they're trying to work out like how they can recoup their money, because they're like AAA HD games division is still like not quite turning a profit. They're not in danger because I think their MMO and mobile wings are profitable. Like I think with Ever Crisis they found a pretty stable system with just like releasing new costume models every month. And obviously, like, despite the roughness of Dawn Trail's launch, it was still, I think, financially a big success. Like, I'm sure a lot of people, bought the X-Pack and renewed their subs and will continue to keep paying their subs as we get in there,
Yeah.
And, like, Square is doing some new remasters. Like, I believe, I think they're the ones who published that one PSP franchise that's getting, like, all their games remastered. What's it called? Chat probably knows better than me. Lost Mission? Last Mission? I feel like Mission is in there somewhere. I don't know. But, like, so... And that is a thing I think that that Square Enix is very good about, is, like, they do...
Front Mission.
Front Mission. Well, that was one of their games. That was the mecha game. There's another one that, like, lost something. I don't know. I don't remember right now. Some people in our chat will be super hyped. Some people who are still listening to this episode may remember it. But, like, Square actually does a pretty good job of re-releasing old titles. Like, obviously, there's the Pixel remasters and stuff, and... No, it's not Last Einherjar. It's a more generic name than that. But like I said, people were super excited because they're doing that re-release. Like Square actually does a pretty good job of remastering and re-releasing old titles to current hardware, and usually multiplat. I think their main problem, and I think they did not necessarily discuss those games, but Square has a real issue, I think, with like marketing and announcing their kind of like AA titles. Like, Square Enix publishes a shitload of games, y'all. Over the past couple years, they've released, Last Valkyrie, Diofield Chronicles, Harvestella was them, various Daylife and stuff like that, Triangle Strat, a few years back.
Diofield Chronicles.
I said just Diofield, but yes,
that's right.
Diofield Chronicles. Like, they release a lot of games that are not quite... I mean, Forspoken was a AAA game that did not go over well, but yes. Like, they release a lot of games, like, Forspoken is not necessarily what I'm talking about. That was a AAA game that had a huge marketing budget and, like, had a marketing push. I just think that the audience wasn't there for that one. they were doing that too much, like, postmodern, like, self-awareness thing, which I think is, like, generally okay. But, like, I do think the game, like, leaned too heavily into that without, like, actually, like, marketing it correctly. So I do think they still have some issues in their marketing there. Also, the game was a super high-level, like, tech demo, and even though it was multi-platform immediately on release, it was very hard to run on PCs because it required crazy high specs, if I recall correctly. But, like, I'm talking about, like I said, like, various Day Life, Harvestella and stuff, where, like, Square doesn't really seem to know how to market these games. Some of it I think I want to call is, like, the after image of the JRPG effect, where a lot of these games are still JRPG adjacent. They are RPGs made in Japan, even if none of them are all straight up turn-based. But that's carried a long stigma for a lot of years, and, like, I think only very recently have we actually started, like, looking back critically at that label. And, like, I know you and I have had this conversation before when I think it was Yoshi P talked about how, like, a lot of himself and the others in the development team thought of JRPG being kind of like a dirty word because people would kind of use it to single out them and isolate them.
Yep, we had that talk.
Yeah. This is when the world rediscovered that the G4 show X-Play was actually really kind of racist back in the day. If you were a JRPG or an anime game, I guess it was free reign for Adam Sessler to make accents that are probably not okay. But, like, I still don't mind using the term JRPG because to me JRPG conjures up fond nostalgia of a very specific feel of a game. But I also understand why, like, some Japanese developers feel like it was kind of, like, used as a pejorative against them. Square does still produce JRPG type-ish games, though, and I feel like they don't know how to market them. Like, I remember that I actually was looking up Harvestella because that came out a couple of years ago now, or was it last year? But, like, that was, like, I was like, I'm pretty sure Square released that. And yeah, like, I feel like that one got mishandled in marketing because, like, I was double checking it and I was reading some, comments online and stuff. But, like, that game kept being shown, I remember it kept being shown in ads as, like, much more farming focused, and got lumped with a lot of people and with a lot of farming sim games, which is another genre that some people are, like, kind of, at least historically, have been kind of derisive to, and I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with compy farming games. You know how many fucking copies Stardew Valley has sold? Like, it's a thing. If it's not your thing, that's okay, but, like, there's a market for that. People like those games. Evidenced by the fact that they're existing. But, like, from what I heard of people talking about it kind of post facto, Harvestella is much more like a traditional RPG that just so happens to have a moderately robust farming system on it.
Yep.
And it was not really marketed that way, and that's probably why it didn't sell well.
Well, no, from what I, like I read something about on this, yeah, no, what Square CEO, I can't remember his name, I know it has a T in there,
yeah,
was saying is that they're kind of, what was the exact phrasing he uses? But basically that they were self-sabotaging themselves by releasing so many games in such a short amount of time without the proper marketing to let them breathe. So people did not necessarily have the time, info, or information to get said games when, there's all these other games out there.
I think, well, at least I don't know if he gave the interview in Japanese or not, but I believe the way it was translated was he mentioned that he thought that they were cannibalizing their own game sales.
Yes, that's what it was.
And like some people like have even our Discord, and if I was misreading you, Ed, so I apologize, but it sounded like some people in our system earlier were trying to like be like, oh yeah, they're working on all these giant RPG titles. No. I think that they're giving their big AAA like numbered Final Fantasies, and even stuff like doing the near like remasters and whatever. They're giving those time to breathe. Like I think it was about 9 months between Rebirth and FF16, maybe a little more like 6, but over half a year. And then obviously now we're getting the 16 port, roughly a year later. Like a little under a year, and and it's about 6-ish months from 7 Rebirth. I suspect that probably we're gonna be looking at the PC port of Rebirth sometime in the summer of next year. I would assume at this rate,
Mm-hmm.
like those I feel even for games that are like 100 hours, 120 hours, whatever. Those are decently spaced out. But it's their AA titles that are like really scattershot, that they are just kind of like, Nintendo Direct, Harvestella comes out in 2 weeks. Huh? What? What's this game? I don't know, man. Farming and RPGs. When we
Bye.
RPGs and farming. And I'm glad that they have acknowledged that kind of confusion and are working on it. Admittedly, they are allegedly the most hardest company to please because even the article we both read talked about this. They brought up the fact that allegedly Square Enix said that the Tomb Raider reboot series did not perform to their expectations, and that sold big mega millions of units.
I do believe that's over time though.
Yeah.
Usually companies judge a game's success in the initial sales, because after that's when they start putting things on discounts, putting it on for free on such things. And
hey, by the way, in my Googling to double check these games, I think it's because they're doing a developer sale for TGS, but Harvestella is 70% off on Steam right now. I think Various Daylife's 60% off. So if you are interested in adding to your backlog, Steam sale. But yeah, no, they just kind of put out these games, some of which are at arguable full price for this gen. I do at least appreciate that we've got a zone where games can be, usually in the 60 or 70 range, but sometimes as low as 50. Unfortunately, it does sound like Sony is still tied to this $40 price point for their live service multiplayer games. This was the rumor being passed around earlier this week that right now it sounds like Bungie is planning a $40 price point for that marathon game, which probably isn't coming out until at least next year. I want to say, Sony, Bungie, if you're doing that, you better have a Helldivers 2 quality starting product. It worked for Helldivers. You need a fucking your marathon game needs to be that level of quality if it's going to be worth $40. Otherwise, you are looking at another Concord type situation where people are going to go, I'm not paying $40 for this. I can play other games that do this for $0 and hate myself. So and obviously I think hearing how much fucking money Concord cost, there's a reason why they didn't start with the free to play angle. They were okay, we have to make money back somehow. We got to get paid for this. And then they were just guys, I'm just imagining the guy stumbling into the boardroom guys, bad news. Concord, we're not getting paid for this. Nobody is buying this. And they're son of a bitch, what do we do? Throw it in the memory hole. Pull the plug, get rid of it, mine the assets. And that's actually, I think, a segue into another topic that's fun to talk about. Because a little ahead of Tokyo Game Show, I believe that's still not until next Thursday, but Riga Gotoku had their summit, their usual games update, right?
Yep.
They announced a new fucking game. We're getting a Majima game, everybody. Pirate Yakuza. He's literally a pirate.
Oh, this game's gonna be so weird, and I'm here for it.
I know, right? I'm gonna start working on catching up to the fucking timeline, because it's gonna be a post-8 game. Because they're so I brought this up about the talk about stripping and reusing assets, because this is a legitimate question that's being floated right now. Literally, I think it was the head of RGG Studios got this as a interview question. Despite the fact that arguably AAA games take a long time to produce these days, RGG manages to put them out pretty regularly. They were able to put out I feel 6 games in 4 years most recently, something like that. And, the question of, how they do it, well, internally anyway, RGG says that the reason they do it is because they feel a lot of other game franchises, basically effectively reboot themselves every entry, because they don't reuse a lot of maps and assets, whereas for Like a Dragon, sorry, my eyes are bothering me. It's making me forget the name of the town.
Kamurocho?
I can't remember the sorry, what?
Kamurocho?
Yes, Kamurocho, that's right. I'm I can remember Kabukicho, but that's the real name. Yeah, Kamurocho is basically, not a one-for-one, but it's heavily modeled on the real-life Tokyo, subsection of Kabukicho. And other cities that are used in RGG are also similarly straight up just chunks of Yokohama and stuff. The modeling for Hawaii in 8 is very, close down to the part where people can recognize landmarks. And so they do add new content, but they also try not to, stray too far. He didn't say it this way, but another thing is that I'm pretty sure they've been using the Dragon engine for forever, which has its own ups and downs, but when you have an engine and you know the technology, you can use it very easily. And And I think, like you said, they straight up use the analogy to like a serial TV show. You know,
Mhm.
like to them it sounds like they're just like reusing sets and actors constantly. And I'm like, yeah, no, it works. You got the assets, you got them, and I would assume that honestly, like these days, like building a 3D photo scan is relatively easy. I assume that like because they use such real life inspiration, it's really easy for them to get assets. Because like thinking about like Final Fantasy VII, right? Like honestly, it sounds like the remake trilogy coming out in a pretty short time span. We were all concerned about the curve, but it was like 3 years between remake and rebirth. What year did remake come out? No, 4 years. Okay, it was about 3 years after they did the extra jump. So like, and there, I do not know for sure if there will be an entire like intergrade level update. They are going to have a PS5 Pro update, you know, for that level of compatibility. I don't know if they're actually going to do like, because intergrade is a full generation jump and stuff. But like, we're predicting that the third game is going to come out on presumably a similar timescale. It's going to take them like 3 to 4 years of full-time development. And obviously, like, it took them a really long time for it to come out because, like, they announced it in 2015, and it took them a long time to get it working, though I do believe that was another game they had to, like, scrap. They were working with, like, CyberConnect and stuff there, and then they were just like, nope, fuck it, we're doing this internally. But, like, they are having a fairly fast dev cycle because most of their heaviest lifting work was done with Remake. Like, they had to design all their major character models, and, you know, do all that stuff. And mostly it was just, like, I think they even said for Rebirth, a lot of it was just, a lot of their work was, like, modeling new environments and new enemies and stuff, and then just, like, the rest. Writing the script is apparently not a huge deal. I mean, they do already have an outline. But I also, comparing that to, like, what RGG says, like, my thought was, like, well, you know, they do actually produce the remake trilogy games relatively fast. Like, you know, 4 years is less than 6 years. God, how was it 6 years between God of War and God of War Ragnarok? Chat. I say chat. There's like 3 of you in here right now. We're rambling again. Or I'm rambling. Lucky's nodding emphatically and going, yes.
Pretty much. Listen, you're murder mouthing, man. I don't want to cut your flow.
It's true. I'm in a. This is very unplanned. We're in a very flow state right now. I'm recalling a conversation I had earlier. 5 years. Okay, so it was a little lower, but some games do take like 6 fucking years to come out. And like I think God of War Ragnarok took so long, obviously because they're doing like, you know, lots of performance and motion capture and stuff. They got to actually like shoot their cutscenes like they're movies and then turn them into video game movies. But also, thinking back on it, Ragnarok did not really reuse a lot of map assets. Like, they kind of used some, like, geography for, like, trees and rocks and snow and stuff, right? But the map was pretty different. Like, okay, it is 4 years. Yeah, so they did shave some time off it, but, like, you know, it's definitely one of those weird moments where, like, I think, you know, not everybody is down to the art of, like, reusing the elements. Yeah, the Path of the Goddess game that I think it's by Capcom, I think. People said that was pretty good. My backlog
that's
is
on my list.
Yeah, I know. I'm interested in it, but my backlog is fucking crazy. I'm just glad that Astrobot was indeed a compact enough experience that I could buy it, beat it in like a week, and then go, I didn't hate that. I could beat it again on stream. But yeah, like for Final Fantasy VII, they're also enjoying short dev times, but I feel like they're not, like, super short like Ryuga Gotoku because there's a limit to how much real-life, like, reference material they can use for shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a whole new world. It's a fantasy. And that may be an advantage that games that are, like, more realism-grounded can take. And it is kind of interesting. And I also agree, Legendary brought up in our patron chat and the games chat earlier that, like, it doesn't seem to be hurting them financially. I don't know if it's because they're like a subsidiary of Sega, and also they're getting that sweet Xbox marketing money while that lasts. I wonder what will go first. Will Phil Spencer stop paying studios to exclusively advertise their games first, or will he lay off another 400 people? That's a little mean to Phil Spencer. I shouldn't be that mean to him. He's a normal man. But like Atlas is also like cooking a shitload of games. Like, you know, they re-released P3R, and they've just done the episode I guess DLC Metamorphosio is not that far away. I don't remember when that release date is, but like we're truly in the marketing spin up for that. They're also, doing re-releases and sub-game releases and shit. It's really interesting. And I should double check. There's another studio that I'm very interested in that like usually makes good games. Though I think they have some caveats for how they can move around. But like thinking back, I'm like, FromSoft is another studio that I think Neo World Ends With You a remake or a sequel? It is the sequel. Okay, play it. I mean, you should play it anyway. I don't know if you need to play the first one. That was another game that was like some people would say criminally mismarketed by Square. Like a lot of people didn't know it was out. But FromSoft is another game studio that like turns around their games pretty quick. Let me actually see if I can find a date listed on that. Because they do take a while to cook. Like the DLC for Elden Ring took a while to come out, but they were also working on Armored Core in between there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So Sekiro was 2019, Elden Ring was 2022, 3 years later. Dark Souls 3 was 2016, so that's a 4-year gap. But also, I think that the thing is also, people probably don't realize it right away, but FromSoft is another studio that never throws anything away. There are enemies in Elden Ring that have, like, names for their animation skeletons and AI that people have found in, like, Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and shit, like, games that are multiple years older. Like, they don't throw anything away. But I also want to say on the subject of Square, another thing, I'm wondering if we might get some news about this at TGS, because the Kingdom Hearts 4 front has been a little blank lately, right? It's been a little loosey-goosey. But somebody has let Tetsuya Nomura out of his cubicle. They let him out of his prison, and he is answering press questions now. So that makes me think that we're probably gearing up for a presser of like getting some actual hard and fast news. Because he's been talking about what they're planning on. So 4, while it will still be numbered 4, Nomura is straight up saying, "Hey, we're doing a soft reboot. 4 is supposed to be a way to onboard people again." And I want to say this sounds like a good idea if they do actually write it that way. I think Kingdom Hearts gets a bad rap for how complex its plot is. The plots are not actually that complex. The problem
I think you're a liar.
No, I don't think the plots are like, if you actually experience all the plot, it's not that complicated. The problem is that the games until very recently were so scattershot on their like platforms
Yes.
that it's hard to actually get all the plot. And so I think Axe said it pretty concisely. It's not complex, it's just not conveyed.
No, I still think it's pretty complex. Like, honestly, I think this is a problem with some people with bias, because you've put in the work to understand it and put in the effort and read all the things and stuff. You now understand it, and once all the pieces are put together, yes, you understand it. You don't think it's so simple. But when me sitting back here with an incomplete fucking 1,000 piece puzzle box, this shit's complex as fuck.
Well, like I said, I was gonna say, I think it looks that way to you because it's like looking at a puzzle with missing pieces, right? And I'm like, of course you'd think it's complicated. It's you haven't been able to access stuff. And I will say, I cannot truly access everything, because even if you bought like stories so far, some parts of that straight up weren't playable. Honestly, for the better. But
if you sit down and have someone explain the story to you, yes, you're gonna understand it. But if you try to do it naturally through the game sentence, no, you're gonna have a hard ass fucking time.
And like I said, I think some of that is, again, the missing piece problem. Like, I'm trying to, my memory, I think, smooths over some of the parts that are probably wibbly. I mean, I don't know if I would say it's up its own ass about anything. I don't think it is. I think it's just that the Kingdom Hearts team had an expectation, which I do not think is realistic, but also isn't that weird, where just they used to think you would play every game. If you like Kingdom Hearts, they kind of expected you to buy every game and play it. But the audience, for some reason, treated it as a weird thing of, like, they wanted, because it was Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, that they were looking for, like, is this Kingdom Hearts 3? And, like, Nomura has to be like, well, no, Dream Drop Distance isn't Kingdom Hearts 3, but it is a sequel, and it will lead into 3 when I get around to that one. And so some people are just like, it's not 3, doesn't matter. Because I will say that, like I said, when you're missing stuff, Kingdom Hearts does get confusing. I remember back in the day playing 2 and not having played Chain of Memories yet. There was a lot of stuff I was like, shit, am I missing something, man? Man, some of the parts of this are so confusing. If you actually can go back and play those games, I would say roughly in release order, don't actually go in chronological order. Like, mostly they should logically follow from the previous game. And this is why I think Kingdom Hearts 3 had such issues. It's because everybody thought, arguably kind of logically, because it is called Kingdom Hearts 3, that you could jump, despite the fact there'd been, 15 years? But it's their own fault for labeling it Kingdom Hearts 3, right? People thought you could jump straight from 2 to 3. You cannot. I mean, you can, but you are going to be missing things, and I do think that parts of it do get complicated and goofy, because you're like, hold on, wait a minute, when was this guy introduced? Where's this guy from? What's this plot point? Because I don't know if it's complicated, but it is actually like a thing that they do keep doing, where Nomura almost has, I think, the writing problem that like Nasu has, where like if Nomura's gonna write something, he's gonna write something, right? Like it's gonna be like he's gonna bring in some new shit and some new characters, and he's gonna want to like do something impactful with it. I don't actually know if he loves mystery boxes per se. Like I wouldn't say it's as bad as like some parts of the sequel trilogy writing. Especially because, like I said, and we'll see how much he's actually speaking the true when 4 comes out. That is also another thing. Like, I don't necessarily take him at his word. But I would also like to remind everybody, most of the parts of the story of FF7 you like is, like Nomura actually helped really reel that in and put that story on the straight and narrow. But, like, I do think that, like I said, Nomura likes every entry to be impactful, to have a reason to exist. And sometimes I think that hurts the franchise because it means that he has, like, peppered in new plot shit in every single game title. And that is frustrating because, like, even if that's not complicated, it is a lot of work. I remember my fucking grind to get through the backlog for 3. Well, yeah, they're bad guys. Sorry, Axe has had his own, like, journey with Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, no, the bad guys are lying liars who lie. This is a thing of, like, I don't know if this is necessarily a Kingdom Hearts problem, but, like, people shouldn't trust antagonists. They're not there for your safety. I mean, this is true, and that's probably something we could have been a little better about, because we do occasionally have mentor characters in Kingdom Hearts. They just don't talk a lot. Yensid doesn't explain more shit than he has to ever. Sora, you gotta beat up these guys called nobodies, even though they have bodies.
I'm sorry, Meg. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but you keep playing this up, and all I can know is that so Kingdom Hearts is complicated.
I mean, I guess that's probably just like a different definition thing. Like, I think you can follow a linear path of Kingdom Hearts. The problem is that linear path is long. Like, it's work. It's
and also
in some parts.
I think you can't say it's easy to understand if you need the foreknowledge to understand what you need to do to understand the story. You cannot just jump into Kingdom Hearts Go and expect to understand things. You are going to need a step-by-step guide and probably a roadmap, and you have to say, hey, you need to make sure you pay attention to these specific points in order to fully understand the story.
I mean, I don't know if you, well, so practically, I don't know if you like really need a roadmap per se. But like I said, this is a problem with, I think, the way, speaking of Square Enix's marketing problems, the way they have labeled and marketed the games. Like, I think the games are most easy to understand if you play them in release order, but especially
Probably.
as, like, time goes on, figuring out that release order is something that's not going to be as natural. Like, obviously, if you were playing every game as they came out, sure, that's easy, you know? A new Kingdom Hearts game comes out, you play it. Except it's not easy because, like I said, for some ungodly reason, they were all over the place in, like, franchises. Like, genuinely, I don't know if, like, Square was approached by, like, different consoles to release games. Like, did Sony hit him up for a PSP title? Or did Nomura just go, like, Square Enix go to Nomura and be like, hey, can you make a PSP Kingdom Hearts? And he was just like, yeah, I got some ideas. Because, like, they were hinting at that as early as the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 2. This is also another thing that's like that. I will say that is annoying. The old school secret ending stuff. I think they went a little less on that as they got on in games, but like back in the day, the secret ending of like you got to clear all the optional bosses is like, again, I don't know if I want to call that complicated, but it is hard work. It is labor. You got to beat secret bosses to do it.
I'm gonna file that under complicated because you're having to put in a lot more effort.
I mean, and that's fair. If you want to say complexity is putting in extra effort, I will agree with you that it is extra effort to understand Kingdom Hearts and to get all the bits and pieces. Like I said, it's something that I don't think Square Enix really helped themselves with the way they release these nowadays. With like the story so far and the like, I mean, yeah, no, you don't need a degree to understand it, but it is a decent number of hours of gameplay. I don't actually know. Kingdom Hearts, I will say, a lot of Kingdom Hearts games are weird in their like gameplay to cutscene ratio because like the games are very story heavy, but also some of them are very gameplay heavy. Like the actual like, and it is funny to think about how obviously the first game, you know, there's no other sequel shit to interact with, so of course it's like straightforward and easy. But like also the original Kingdom Hearts was really easy to follow along because like the actual plot beats as they happen are fairly spread out. Like you gotta like the and some might even say it takes a while. Like, you don't run into Riku for, like, a decently long chunk of time again. Like, you gotta fucking chew through the prologue and the setup in Traverse Town. Then you gotta do, like, all 3 worlds, I think?
Don't you know? I think you don't run... In the first one, you don't run into until Peter Pan's world, I think.
No, because Riku shows up again very briefly in Traverse Town 2.
Okay.
But in the second time. And then he fucks off immediately because Maleficent kidnaps him.
Gasp.
And then you do run into him in the second loop in Monstro with like Pinocchio and stuff. But also that is only after like the second world you do on that loop, I think. Like you have to do Agrabah first and then move on before Monstro eats you. And then you get like the semi-climax in Peter Pan. Like it's very backloaded. I mean, I will say it's funny to me. Yeah, you say it's back-ended, but it's funny to me that you say Kingdom Hearts 1 is the main villain is the best handled. I feel like Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 1 is the most mysterious. Like, he's just out here saying shit about darkness and true darkness and the hot returns, but nobody really cares because Sora's like 14 and is like, man, dude, what the fuck is this guy talking about, Goofy? Well, it's true. He's acted by Billy Zane, and we lose that later. The Richard Epcar is great. He's not quite Billy Zane, so like his performance is great. And I do want to say that even though they are kind of useless, the Council of Disney villains is way more impactful in Kingdom Hearts 1. They're much more of, I feel like, an afterthought in the later games. Like, I swear to God, I think Maleficent straight up forgot her plan in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, all she does is bum around with Pete. She doesn't try and recruit any more Disney villains. I don't know. Like, and I do want to say that, like, I don't think Kingdom Hearts writing is flawless in any way. Like, the series has been strung out over, like, 20 years. Of course, Nomura dropped some shit, probably because he doesn't care about it anymore. And I do think that Kingdom Hearts 3, it's been stated very plainly that Kingdom Hearts 3 suffered from executive meddling on Disney's end. Disney was very micromanagey about what worlds they wanted included and how they wanted included. It's why the Frozen world is literally you just watch the movie. Which is a shame, because, like, parts of the Frozen idea are pretty cool, but also, like, and that final boss is, like, rad. The, like, Fenrir Heartless.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, didn't we just, like, go up a mountain, down the mountain, then up the mountain, then down the mountain again?
Yes, no, because that's the plot of Frozen, is also that. But, like, now you're Sora, like, running in the background, like, as you know, Elsa sings and shit. Which I will say, that's not necessarily a bad thing to follow the movie plots, it's just that usually they try to gussy it up more with Kingdom Hearts isms. Like, some worlds follow movie plots very straightforwardly. Others are, like, way more original, and I think I appreciate those. Like, Agrabah? Those are basic, like, other than that Aladdin goes to the Cave of Wonders and gets a magic genie lamp, most of those plot-wise don't got shit to do with the movies. Mostly because I don't think Kingdom Hearts has ever had Jasmine's dad, the Sultan, appear on screen. I don't know what's going on with that guy. Did Jafar have a Heartless eat him? I don't know. He could be dead for all we know. But, like, the plot very quickly becomes Jafar is allied with the Heartless and he's doing Heartless bullshit, you know?
Yes.
The second Kingdom Hearts 2's Agrabah is kind of like Return to Jafar, but also kind of just doing its own thing, I think. Like, yeah, it's like I said, I don't want to say that Kingdom Hearts is not hard work to like. And I do still like it because I did put in the work. And I do want to say I had to bust my balls to do that. Like I said, I was crunching big time when the 2.8 like story so far collection came out to catch up to Kingdom Hearts 3. And even then, there were parts that I did not do. I did not replay Chain of Memories all the way through because Chain of Memories is hard as fuck. The game is not well rebalanced for being 3D, and it is hard work sometimes. But yeah, no, like, anyway, we got a little off topic because, and I think it's fair for Lucky to bring this up to me. I do still like Kingdom Hearts. I do not love it unconditionally, but I do still like Kingdom Hearts. And that may color my perception sometime. And I can't say that I haven't, like, done the required reading, so that is a thing where a lot of that stuff does kind of naturally stick in my brain. But also, probably the parts of it that are stupid don't stick, so I forget them. But if Nomura is not blowing smoke up my ass, which I am currently disinclined to believe because I think so far most of like the ways the 7 Remake guys have responded in interviews has been pretty straightforward. Like, I don't think they've bamboozled us. But like, if he's correct, him saying that they're doing like a soft reboot and that like 4 is gonna like reset about it. yeah. Sorry, Lucky's typing to Loft now. We could do some Helldivers or something later, but I'll wrap it up after our Kingdom Hearts 4 tangent. But much like letting Barry yap for 30 minutes. After how long did he say his friend took to explain the whole plot to him?
It was several hours.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 hours. Which, to be sure, if you are deep down the Kingdom Hearts hyperfixation hole, I can absolutely understand taking that long. I actually think the best way to think about Kingdom Hearts is to try not to hyperfixate. You have to be able to like kind of zone out a little and just be like, hearts and stuff. It's Disney fairy tale logic. It's not supposed to be like a really... It's not supposed to have a hard and fast rule system, even though sometimes people will try to tell you it does. And by people, I mean like in-universe characters. But anyway, to wrap up with Kingdom Hearts 4, like if Nomura's right and they are intending it as a jumping on point and a soft reboot, I do think that is necessary because even if it is possible to go back and play all of the more important Kingdom Hearts games and do all that stuff, there is still some horse shit with the Master of Masters and the plot of the mobile games, which have, ended service or ending service soon. And they're releasing another mobile game that God knows how that one's going to go. That's still not out, Missing Link. But like that is still like open-ended. And like I said, a lot of this stuff, I don't know if Nomura actually knows where stuff's going. I think sometimes he just likes to write stuff so that he can use it later. This is why characters of ambiguous builds in black hoods is like a really convenient plot trope, because he can just figure out who's inside the cloak later. Which I do think is slightly different from the mystery box problem of like J.J. Abrams, because the actual like Lost style mystery box is just nothing ever gets answered, whereas I think, like I said, Nomura just kind of writes stuff kind of loosey-goosey so that if he wants to later, he can just stick whatever the fuck he needs in for what he's got going on, because, like I said, these games have come out over like 15 years. And I'm hopeful that 4 is a soft reboot, though, because like Kingdom Hearts is getting the reputation as that game series that's way too complicated. And no matter what, it is a game series with a lot of fucking games. Some of which, like I said, are not ported, so you cannot go back and play them. But yeah, like 4, he's like I said, he's talking about 4 more. We're hoping to get some news. I'm interested to see what they're going for, because like their super mega early gameplay footage was pretty cool, because it looked like we're going back towards more of the Kingdom Hearts 2 style action. And he has kind of like said that like they are still going for like some weirdness, talking about like, oh well, Quadratum is kind of like Tokyo, but it's also not Tokyo, so don't be confused. They'll be heartless and stuff. That may just be interviewers asking questions, like Tetsuya Nomura has to be like, no, this is Yoko Taro's not involved. Sora did not literally get transposed into modern day Tokyo. He's not gonna like go to the Square Enix building and like, egg me or something. Steal my wallet. Because that does sound like a thing Yoko Taro would do. If Sora was transported into Tokyo, Yoko Taro would have him go to the Square Enix building. I don't know if I'd want to do an exposition, but we have talked about doing it at some point. We'd have to be careful because it would be kind of probably unprofitable, because I am sure we would get hit on the music for all the fucking Disney music in those games. But it would be an interesting experience to run. We've talked about doing it, but yeah, it's a thing that would need some work to do the run back. We'll put it on our future list. The Metal Gear Solid run back got a lot easier because they released the Master Collection. Well, explaining Shion is tough because you can't play through 5/8/2. I had to remember how many fucking days there were. Nominate actually makes sense when you think about it, and this is gonna sound like an oxymoron. It makes sense when you think about it logically, but it is kind of one of those things where you have like the game doesn't necessarily play out its rules. Yeah, we can watch the cutscene compilation. I don't think we can stream that. That sounds illegal. Just sit down and watch 3 hours of cutscenes. Anyway, let's get out. I'll dig myself out of the Kingdom Hearts hole. By just reminding you that the greatest Kingdom Hearts game is and always will be, unless 4 is somehow really, really good, Kingdom Hearts 2. I think that is a good answer. Never ask how did this happen. You won't get an answer you like. And like I said, that I think is a fault of Nomura's writing. People ask Nomura how did this happen, and he feels compelled to actually like make the explanation important. People need to stop doing that. People just need to be like, how did this happen? I don't know, man. It just did, okay? If it didn't happen, there wouldn't be a game. Because this is actually a good segue for my final topic. I'll be brief because a lot of my knowledge on this is kind of secondhand, but I do want to mention we brought this up mostly while we were yapping about Final Fantasy XIV on the 14 stream this week, but we've talked about it before as well. I did actually catch up on Monty Glue's VODs of playing the 14 RPG, the starter box. I'm caught up through 3 episodes now. They're not done yet, but if you don't know, this is a series of streams that is also VODed on YouTube that involves Monty Glue is the game master. It's got content creators like Joe Cat and Shenpai in there, and they're playing the material in the starter box. I mean, if you got it, I would love to play, but also I could run. But because I love squares. But I have listened through, and I would highly recommend these series because Monty straight up says that she is doing the streams because right now, a lot of the videos you can find online are unboxings. Very few people are actually recording themselves playing it because it does not yet have digital support. I do hope that like Square can maybe finagle some support on like Roll20 or something, or can like plan some digitized releases. But if they also want to keep it physical only, I can kind of understand what their vibe is. But I do want to say from listening to them put it out, I'm very interested in this game overall. I think it does a really good job of capturing the feel of the MMO without necessarily being overly literal, but definitely being comfortable enough that, like, if you have played a tabletop RPG and you have played some hours of 14, you can understand it very well. And it does some stuff with squares and, like, turn order for a D&D-like that I really like. First of all, no initiative. The way it works is, if you're not surprised, adventurers go first, enemies go second. And you pick your order at the start of combat, what order you want to go in. You do have to stick to that order, so it's not as freeform as like Genesis, but it's still pretty in there. It actually replicates the fucking baby jail from the start of Duties. Like, the way you're supposed to do it is you have a little rectangle that the players start in as their starting positions, and they can move freely in that before the battle even starts. So like that's really neat, and like I said, you decide your order. If you are surprised, you basically get your turn skipped, and it does, at least in the starter kit, suggest the idea that not everybody will be surprised all at once. So like sometimes only some players may be surprised and some enemies may be surprised, kind of a thing. One thing I also really like, while you do roll a d20 to like confirm hits, there do not appear to, at least in combat anyway, be outright misses. There is a possibility maybe that a natural one is a failure, is an outright miss, and it is supposed to be like an instant failure on like ability checks out of combat. But a lot of the combat seems to be managing like direct damage. Like every ability I have heard them use has a like function of it works, or it's a hit or a direct hit. Like when you do a basic attack button. And yes, I think there aren't any actions that are not using one of your basic attack buttons, at least. If you don't roll to beat the target's defense, their physical or magic defense, you still usually do some effect. Most of the time you do like a little bit of damage, like you'll do flat damage, and then you roll extra damage if you do hit. Or some effects are like one of the starter kit characters is the warrior, so their AoE overpower, at least until you get higher level, if you don't get a direct hit, it doesn't do damage, but it does get enmity. And then at higher levels, it does guaranteed damage. But the thing is, enemies are usually the same way. Like, most of them, if they roll under, they're going to do a little bit of damage to you. Like, if you are targeted by a basic bitch attack by a mob, you're going to take a little bit of damage. But, guess what, Lucky? Piss puddles are in this RPG. Enemies will actually do abilities which they call markers, and they will put them down around before they do them, giving you an opportunity to either move out of the way on your turn, or do, like, interrupts, like stuns. Low blow and leg sweep are both in the game. So are both of the versions of, like, sleep and repose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think most role actions you would understand are in the game in some form. It's known for sure that rescue is in the game, but it's very funny because it says consenting. Shit like that. So, like, players take damage at a rate, and so you do got to manage your HP. But, like, the action economy also seems, if you know what you're doing, seems like it can be fairly robust. It's kind of D&D-like, where there's usually you have a primary and a secondary action, and then you have a standard movement. So there's no move action, but you have expected movement in a turn, and you have, primaries and secondaries. But there are a lot of abilities you can use, like, once per what they call phase. That's right, encounters come in phases. Some encounters are one phase, but they explicitly write in that, like, you can get a second phase in the same combat if the enemy gets reinforcement, or if a powerful enemy changes forms. So they straight up have phase transitions built into the RPG already. I love
That's
this.
awesome.
So you get some instant abilities that are like once per phase, or once per encounter, or even once per turn, that let you get extra actions. So, like, I don't know if, because I don't have sheets in front of me, but, like, Swift Cast for casters either gives you an extra secondary cast or gives you an extra primary cast. You also, everybody has the ability to focus. If you don't move, you get a second secondary action. So, like, they don't have cast bars for players, but they do kind of mimic the idea of standing in one spot and using a lot of abilities, because focusing is very important to, like, hit your buffs and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few off abilities, but it's very interesting, and I kind of like it. It also straight up talks about, dots and regens. Axe said he's not 100% sure. I'd have to play it myself and see how it is. The way dots work is mostly you don't roll, you just, like, literally stick that, like, for enemies, you literally stick them with a dot. And they have that dot for the whole phase. Like, presumably, like, the dot sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And then all dots apply at the end of the total round. So, like, after you have moved and enemies have moved, enemies and you take dot damage. And sometimes your rolls, you can, like, roll for, like, critical damage or extra effects. Enemies are similarly can stick you with dots. And the main thing that's weird is that I think the way at least the White Mage regen works is you regenerate the Revivify effect procs at the end of the player's turn, so before enemies go. That can be, I think, a little weird. But so far it seems like it's a thing you can manage. You do have to worry about your MP if you're a caster. Actions take, like, 1 or 2 points of MP. But also you can get them back, and you can use Lucid Dreaming to get more back at the end of your turn, that kind of shit. It sounds like the Black Mage actually has the thing where, like, if they're not in Umbral Ice, they don't recover MP naturally.
Huh.
But they do get more back if they are, so, like, Black Mage has their fucking phase shift. You have your, like, job gauges and stuff modeled when you're high enough level. So it's, like, it's a really good emulation of the MMO while also still being tabletopable. And I do kind of like that, like, much like the actual MMO, it seems like it's a lot of mitigating actual, like, damage. Like, you're going to take some damage if an enemy is in position to hit you. So how do you mitigate that, Do you let your healer go first and, like, spread out your HP? Do you self-heal? Because, like, hey, like, the Dragoon can use, like, Bloodbath and Lance Charge and shit, you can Blood Wed as a warrior and stuff like that, You have limited numbers of uses per phase, but, like, you can actually work that out. Are you more focused on like, maneuvering out of markers, or do you use stuns to break up markers? I think that it does a pretty good job of encouraging using your mitts. Like, you can actually, like, feint is a thing you can do, as a DPS. You can actually, like, do a feint and just reduce damage, allies would take by 2. Enmity is interesting because I think it only lasts for a round, so you have to keep applying it. But what it does is make it so that if enemies don't attack you, they take a huge deficit, they get like a -5. So provoke is actually really interesting because it's like an out-of-turn interrupt. When an enemy takes an action, the tank can like throw out a provoke and instantly gain enmity with that enemy, which does not necessarily mean they have to retarget you, but whatever they're about to do, if they're not targeting you, they're going to take a big minus to hit it. And there are several other of these like interrupts. They actually, like, the warrior actually gets their vengeance ability, so they get to do a damage reduction and clap back for like half the amount of damage they reduce. Like, it seems really well modeled. So I'm very interested in the final set because I believe they said the full rulebook will include all jobs up to Heavensward. So I'm, like, very curious to see how, like, MP using tanks like Paladins and Dark Knights work and kind of how they differentiate the healers. I know some people are very interested in how, like, say, Summoner works. Like, I actually do kind of want to get out there. Like, it's really interesting, and like I said, I like a lot of the stuff it does. There's some fine-tuning with the timing, and speaking of like the kind of like the, you know, talking about the characters talking thing, there is an interesting thing where in at least the starter kit, there are several forms of text that are basically boxed out like cutscenes, where the Game Master is just supposed to just read out like what some people are saying, sometimes even stuff that's happening like off screen away from the player characters. And that's interesting. But also I'm like, I guess that's going to be kind of a thing that, like, if you're playing a tabletop game, if you're going to stick to that system, which obviously if you're homebrewing you don't have to, but if you're going to stick to that rule, like, that's going to cause some tension because a lot of tabletop players are definitely going to want to be like, yeah, that's really cool that Gaius is monologuing. I'm going to throw a hammer at him. When he says, "Tell me, for whom do you fight?" I just cast Dismantle on him. Okay, I guess you throw a wrench at Gaius. Gaius is going to go golden immediately, and he's going to hit you with the Tank Buster. Good luck, fucker. But no, like, for cutaway scenes, I like the idea. But one of the other things that was really interesting was, like it actually talks about, like, because it's got, you know, the cameos you'd expect. Well, this is actually something that's really interesting to me, because they got on this conversation in the RPG. I didn't realize that not only did they cut dialogue from that, but you used to be able to choose dialogue options with Gaius. Like, at least at some point in the game, Gaius would ask you, for whom do you fight, and you can actually, like, talk to him a little. And I'm like, man, I kind of missed that. That if that was in, that sounds like that would be good role playing. Like, if you could respond, you know, he asks you, for whom do you fight, and you apparently, anyway, assuming that this person, in the stream wasn't misremembering, you used to be able to say, I fight, for Eorzea, for my friends, for myself, which is a kind of dialogue, thing that they do later in the game. I'm thinking of the Xenos dialogue with at the end of Endwalker, for instance. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's still a moment of, like, that sounds like that'd be kind of cool to be able to get in that conversation. But that's a tangent. One of the things I like is, like, they have these character cameos. So, like, the second half of the starter adventure is, Raban is like, hey, can you go to Camp Blue Fog and check out some shit? And it actually has notes for, like, if your players refuse the job from Raban, pause the game and gently inform them that if they don't do it, there's no scenario. You don't have anything. And I'm like, this is so cute. Like, but also it's true, right? Like, yeah, you're playing a boxed adventure. If the players don't engage with it, tell them, hey guys, I don't have anything, so accept the blue quest from Raban or else. It's a meteor quest. You literally can't do anything else until you do this part. And that is also something they do talk about, like, visualizing to your players. They straight up say at one point, like, hey, tell the characters that they see people with quest markers over them, like how to single out important NPCs, And I'm like, that's so fucking funny that you can, like, use the visual language that this is an actual game and, like, do it. And also, like I said, they have funny cameos, like, Yoshi P's Black Mage Lalafell, like, shows up at the end of the first starter adventure to, like, thank you and then fuck off. And it's just, like, I agree with the people streaming it who just said that, like, so it's just, like, Yoshi P shows up to, like, oh, so yeah, she does give you a title. You can get titles in the RPG. That's very funny. But, like, she shows up, like, it's like Yoshi P telling you, thank you for playing the Final Fantasy XIV starter adventure. Like,
I like it personally.
Yeah. No, it like it says, it sounds like there's a lot of charm in this game, and it's pretty cute. There may be some parts that cleave a little too closely to the video game for, like, a tabletop, but
honestly, listening to this really feels like this is kind of supposed to also kind of be like baby's first tabletop in a way. something to, like, maybe not so focus on, maybe necessarily the nuts and bolts of mechanics, just getting there and playing a game for, like, a game's sake.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I definitely think that, like, still being technically, like, D20 and D6 based, like, it's supposed to be, and I think it may have started as them, like, doing a prototype of a D&D hack, and then they were just like, we can take this even further, we can just straight up make this our own thing. Like, technically, I think being, like, D20 based with, like, usually using D6s for damage, is, like, meant to be so that, like, if you have that group that, like, only ever plays D&D, you can be like, well, we still use D20s for this, and it's class-based, this, Final Fantasy game. But yeah, no, I think it really is supposed to be, like, obviously, if you are already a tabletop head, I think it has interesting ideas in it. And I think it is very well poised to, like, run a game that is actually set in the world of 14. But also, it definitely feels like if you play 14 and you are kind of interested in that sort of, like, do your own like, which a lot of people are interested in the RP and the original character vibe. Like that was kind of the thing all the content creators in this RPG are doing, is they are playing their little avatar characters. Like Joe Cat is Victor Quibbles the White Mage, his gray-haired cat boy vibe. So like that, it makes sense that that's how that works. But like it is very much, I think, supposed to be like an onboarding process to the hobby where you can just pick it up and play. Like I said, I'm very interested in the full kit and where they can go from there. Like, obviously, I think if I were to run it as a game, I would probably do something along the lines, depending on how, like, leveling works out, and, like, what exactly the content they have for the timeline. My idea would probably be the thing we've talked about as just a side game that 14 should do, of just, like, probably, like, an Ivalice Liberation campaign. Like, just start as you guys are, like, mercenaries or adventurers who get hired to go to the Ivalice region and stir up shit, and then it turns fully into, like, oh yeah, the Empire's fucking imploding. What are you guys gonna do? Like, hey, Garlemald is retreating. What now? And if you're concerned about big boss fights, let me tell you, trust me. I mean, I probably need to do the boss fights anyway for stuff. That's I think, somewhere in our goop list. And I know
honestly, that's what we should probably do. We should probably block out, like, next stream and just go hardcore run Bozja.
I'm down with that if we want to block out some Bozja time. I can make sure I can unlock the next of my relic weapon step just to be safe. We can block some Bozja time. I don't think did I even get to the third area? I don't think so.
Yeah, it'll only be the 25th, so we won't be necessarily hype on the next news.
Yeah, we won't have our new news yet. But like that's, like I said, would be the most straightforward thing to do, of just like, because that would allow me to weave in my love of the 12 Ivalice setting into the greater 14 setting, and also conveniently keep you, like, within hearing distance of major plot beats, but not having to worry about, like, well, right now, canonically, the Warrior of Light is, I don't know, fighting Nidhogg in the last steps of Faith right now, or something, I know we don't actually need to be level 70. Like I said, I would have to check out the leveling curve, but there's, again, depending on how they actually break up enemies, there's no necessarily need to make you that advanced. The main thing, I think, would just be, like, the class awareness. And like I said, we're only going to go up through Heavensward jobs so far, so you can't Red Mage yet. You can't do any of the other Stormblood classes, and obviously can't do anything in Shadow Bringers and beyond. Does make me very interested that I hope that they do those stuff. I mean, we could do the Ivalice raids as kind of a side story, because I don't think you have to be, the Warrior of Light to do that. I'd have to actually those cutscenes were very long sometimes, and it's been a while since I did them. Is the story of the Stormblood raids, the Ivalice raid series, implying that the Warrior of Light is showing up with, like, a couple dozen adventurers to just raid these tombs? I think so. So, like, we could do a variant of that. But, like I said, I think the game does a very good job. Like, for instance, I will spoil it. So if you're planning on playing the adventure, don't listen. But I probably would not run the starter kit with my friends, just because. Well, I know for a fact that if Lucky gets a choice, he's gonna want to play Summoner, which is not in the starter kit. So I don't know if I would run the starter kit adventure. But like, the first quest you do at the starter kit adventure is around level 30, and it's basically like you do a like prelude to the Ifrit fight the Warrior of Light has, where like you investigate the Amalja stealing the crystals that they're gonna use to summon Ifrit. So like, you don't actually see Ifrit because that would be very bad for you, but you start on that plot line, and like then it ends with you hearing about, oh hey, yeah, did you know they summoned Ifrit and some guy beat him? Wild. Yeah, I don't know for sure. Like I said, they haven't got there in the actual play, and I haven't looked at the starter kit myself. I hope that they do have ways to do some of those big fights, because that would be cool, but, it's one of those things you gotta watch out for. But, like, there's plenty of fun stuff. And like I said, if I was using my 12, knowledge, you didn't actually fight all the espers you can fight in that game in the Evilise raid, so I could come up with big scary bosses. Whilst also just playing 12, he's gonna be like, oh man, I don't want to fight that 12 version of Zeromus. That guy, that was the gravity esper. He was really annoying. He made the battlefield super heavy, so if you were wearing heavy armor, you just fucking be slow. It sucked. There's a lot of really annoying field effects in that. Anyway, that was the other thing I wanted to really talk about was, like I said, I'd actually caught up on the 14 RPG. I recommend listening to it if you want to check out the game, and it does do things, like I said, that mechanically I think are very interesting, and it solves, I think, one of my number one complaints with D&D, which is you can take your turn, and if you whiff those D20 rolls, you can do, in fact, literally nothing. I think the way that the 14 RPG is set up is that usually something will happen if you use one of your abilities. You may not necessarily do damage depending on what abilities you're having, but you can actually, get something done. You'll do a little bit of scratch damage or draw enmity or set up a dot or something. And you can, if you want to blow all your extra action on it, you can basically Glare Mage as a healer. You can do nothing but cast Stone 3 times in a row. Joe-Cat does do that. But yeah, we're almost at 3 hours now. Probably because Lucky did not really bait me, but it did pull me into a discussion about Kingdom Hearts that wasn't planned. But we're almost at 3 hours, so that's my run of the What's Up topics to talk about. Sorry, that just gave me a really cursed idea to name the show. Ordeal Call, the Kingdom Hearts of FGO? I don't know if I'll do that. But yeah, Lucky, do you have anything happening with you in the week you want to talk about?
Not particularly. We did get through the Sin Duality closed network test over the weekend. I did get in some time with that. Enjoying it. They're testing out some new things. I continue to be cautiously excited for the game. I'm starting to realize, I think there might be a niche for just kind of single player extraction shooters, as well as that sounds. But I kind of like the vibe of just let me get in my robot, let me go find some resources, let me maybe fight some monsters, maybe fight some bandits and go home and upgrade my base. I like that. If other people are there, that's cool, but if other people are not there, that's probably better. There was just something very zen about playing a network chess and I'm just stomping around the world. Crawling over ancient facilities, hiding under rocks when the rain comes. I'm just all this is kind of zen.
That sounds good.
Yeah, no. People are a little concerned about when the release window for Sin Duality is, but I think I am gonna probably pick it up on launch. I think it's a very good game. Well, it's a pretty good game. I don't know if it's very good. Other than that, been getting the Warframe going on. We are gearing up for a new event soon. Digital Extremes is actually going to the Tokyo Game Show. They're gonna have a panel there, and they're probably gonna reveal more details for Kome and the Five Fates, their next event, as we gear up for Warframe 1999, which is. I actually hadn't watched the trailer and footage they have for it, and now that I have, I'm twice as fucking excited. I'm how fucking dare you guys do this to me? So Warframe continues to go on. Haven't really been watching anime. I've been trying to get back into that, but I don't know. Same with other video games. We did pretty good time on 14, but again, I've talked about it again, so I don't need to go over it why I'm not into it right now.
No,
Warframe seems to be
14's probably going to be in a holding process for I will say watching those actual plays of the RPG did make me go man, I miss just playing 14. So I've remembered to log in and do my dailies at least a couple of days, but yeah, I'm also not playing it a lot. Probably we won't be super hype until we get that news from the live letter at TGS.
Yeah, but what else was I saying? I still play Civ on occasion. Like I said, it's a game that I can pick up and put down pretty easily, and we are constantly still thinking about Rain and Civ 7 coming up, so it helps me get in those kind of moods. But other than that, no, I'm still playing way too many gachas. I was able to get my carrier Amagi, which was very super important to me. I did not have to, break my bank, which means I will not rage quit this game. Azure Lane, but I am still having the problem of I'm playing too many gacha games, and I may have to cut some, especially if I actually do find work. So I'm having a bit of a struggle with that. I continue to hate Twitter, and then compulsively constantly open Twitter. So
The sad
I don't know
Twitter
what
cycle. Open Twitter.
yeah. Open
Go
Twitter, see what's on
OG.
Twitter, hate Twitter, close Twitter, open up Twitter 5 minutes later.
Yeah. I mean, that is unfortunately the doom scroll loop. I know that a lot of people have that problem with, like, whatever their preferred social media is. Like, people treat TikTok the same way and stuff. Yeah, no, Twitter is rough sometimes. There are plenty of times I've had to go, okay, that's enough of this for today. I'm fucking done. Get me out of here.
Yeah, but I think that's it for me right now.
All right. Yes, good follow-up. Well, we'll do the outro now, because it is after Move Night. It's been going for almost 3 hours. So we got a decent length episode out of it. There was some new FGO stuff to talk about, and more mysteries for the future. So we'll be back with that. Let's see. Well, I do think we're at Reign 16. I think I need 16 uploaded to post. We're not going to be reigning this week because Loft has more job trainings.
Yep.
But he has actually, like, said blocked out when he's actually, like, actually being employed. He's not going to be available the day we reign, so we should be back to normal that day. But that does mean that people will have a chance to catch up on the AP when I remember to post it, because even if I remind Lucky to upload it, then I have to remember to fucking make it go live. And Monday, we'll be back streaming with, we finished Titanfall 2 in 2 streams, as you'd expect. Good job, Lucky. Kill Robot's good. And
You can't see I flashed a peace sign.
I will be running through Astrobot for my second time, because it's a new game that, like I said, I would not mind playing again on stream, and I'm hoping that it will kind of spark the joy in the audience and Lucky watching of the game is the embodiment of the DiCaprio point meme. You're going to see a little guy and be like, hey, I know that guy. And then there's some guys that I'm like, I don't know that guy. Who the fuck is this? So we get to play that game together, chat. But that is our plan for that. And we're keeping on the usual Fail Betrayal Tuesdays and Final Fantasy 14 Wednesdays. I'm down to clown with some boss time. Maybe I should dig up my Shadowbringers thumbnail for funnies. No, that might confuse people, but it would be funny. Anyway, I clapped to remind myself that I'm going to do the outro. We're outroing. The outro goes a little something like this. Like this video, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, join our Discord, join our channel memberships if you want to get access to membership badges and emotes, and consider supporting us on Patreon as well to get audio and other goodies. It's not out everywhere yet, but YouTube is testing out a feature for smaller creators, though small on YouTube, by the way, is between 500 and 500,000, but they have been beta testing this new hype feature, so whenever that goes live, if you're watching our videos, there'll be some sort of hype button you can click, and if we get a lot of hype, it puts on, like, a special trending tab, and, like, apparently this is research back. They've, like, been beta testing in Brazil and some other localities, and it, like, actually does help smaller channels grow. So keep your eye out for hyping us up, I guess. Hype the content, and we'll see you guys next week for more FGO. We should probably have, like I said, we may have some more concrete ideas about what's coming up on, JP end, and definitely we'll have further news. Like, we may actually get an announcement, because next show will be recorded the 27th. Yeah, so we probably will know when Halloween is going to be the October event, when that's starting. So stay tuned for more. That's everything. Good night, folks.
Unite.